you can't just
I
assume.
get it,
It's
dog.
called you
You
can't
live in
assume
a
because you
world
might be wrong,
where
Mark.
you need
You
things
know,
spelled out for you. It's
you
okay.
assume that when you said, "Do you think they're gonna score?" that everybody else thought that that meant touchdown. That's where you assumed,
No,
Mark. See,
what? No,
you're
I'm just
wrong.
saying, dog. It's weird when somebody else understands me, but like you don't get it. You be like,
That
"Well,
just means
that's not what you said."
that
Like,
just
dog,
means
why do you need it spelled out for you?
two
Like,
people think vaguely and speak
that's
vaguely, and that's
weird.
why they understand each other.
Yo,
No,
you're like Forrest
we're,
Gump. Like when they
look,
tell
Mark,
you to run,
we
you
are
just
clearly
ran outside the field and shit. Well, they
we are
never told me
clearly
where to start.
look, man. Look, this
Like
is
no.
what we
Why do I
do.
gotta be so specific?
Mark, we're doing a podcast, right? And what we're doing is we're speaking to people in the public. You got people of all different walks and backgrounds, right?
You're right.
So it behooves you to speak clearly and to articulate your thoughts in a precise manner so that people understand what you're saying. So when
Well,
you're being vague and you're expecting people to just
no,
assume what you say
no,
or
no.
get it,
Listen, you're
then
right.
that's
No,
that's on
you're
you
absolutely
as a
right.
as an
I will
orator,
make
Mark. As an
you
orator,
are
Mark,
absolutely
you should
right.
be
From
better.
now on, I
As
will
an
make it
orator,
to
you should
where
be better.
for, from now on, I will make it to where I lower my bar for the IQ level at which I
Mark,
speak.
you
I
you
promise
you're
that I will
sitting
do that
here
from
being
here
you
on out.
talking about people understanding your vagueness, and then you get upset when you say what you say about Patrick Mahomes, and then you get mad because people are taking it and assuming and filling the gaps and saying that, hey man, you're hating on Tom Brady, and then you're telling them, listen to the exact words that I'm saying, don't interpret shit. So which one is it, Mark?
Because listen, it's
So
not vagueness because
interpret
there's no
whatever.
vagueness in that. Because what they're saying, because when you repeat back to me what I said, and then you're like, but time, and I'm like, that was the very first thing I said. That I led with, he has the time. So like, you can't come at me, but time, with that excuse if the very first thing is I give you, he has the time. Like I'm giving you that to start off. That's like me handing you $1 and then starting a conversation. You like, but what about my dollar, nigga? I gave it to you before I
But
even started
what,
talking.
Mark?
Like,
You're
why are you
the,
talking
the,
about that fucking
the part
dollar?
that you're
Shut up.
missing is you weren't saying, "Man, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the goat."
No, no,
You're
no. The
calling
part.
him the
Listen,
goat.
listen,
You
listen.
were calling
No,
him the goat.
no. I did.
That's what I mean. Like,
Okay, now see. Now you playing games.
now I'm playing
Now
games.
you playing games.
Okay,
Now you
okay,
playing
that's
games, and you
fine. You
know
know?
because I never once called him the
All
fucking
right, I
goat.
need you to review that. I need you
I
to.
never called him. I never called. So you want to sit here, put your hand to the Bible, and say I called him the goat?
Yes,
You want to put for real? I called
yes,
him the goat,
yes, yes.
dog. Where is Jesus? Because you need him. Where is he? Like, where is he?
Look,
You gonna say
look, look, I'll let Darius and Tobias answer that question.
you gonna sit
I'll
here
let
and
Darius
say
and Tobias answer that question.
no? Listen.
I'll
At
let
the
I'll
end
let
of the
the people
day,
that you offended answer that
at
question.
the end of the day, because I never called him. I said that he's a better. I said he's a better player, but the only thing that he has on him is time, and that will come. Like that's the only thing that's barring him. That's not me calling Patrick Mahomes the GOAT. That's me saying Patrick Mahomes is a better player
That's
than him.
still saying that it's impossible for
It
him
doesn't matter.
to not
It
pass them.
doesn't matter what you
Let's
say.
go.
From
Let's go,
now
Mark.
on,
Let's
we're
go.
going to start this
Let's go, Mark.
podcast.
Let's
Yo,
go.
what's going on out
Let's
there,
go.
everybody? Welcome to the eye test. I'm tired of this motherfucker right here. I put Shawn redacted, Tyrone, and the Black Kratos himself, Chris. What's good, yo? How you guys doing, man? We gonna get right into this. We got a major episode for you right now, dog. And I promise you, you can't miss this. This dude is already acting up, and I see that he's in all black. He's dressed for a funeral because San Francisco 49ers fucking suck. All right.
This is
So
gray.
here we
I
go.
don't even understand what you're talking. This is black. This is gray, Mark.
Listen,
Did some get lost in translation? Do you need to read between the lines?
listen. Hey
What do
man,
you do
I
here?
listen. I just assumed that you didn't own like the because it's faded there. The emblem's faded, so I just assumed that
The
you didn't
emblem
own
is
Downey.
gray. The emblem is a different shade of gray. Look, you
Listen.
can't
I
even
just
see
assumed
gray.
that you didn't own Downey and that
Look,
the colors were worn.
look.
And listen, I'm gonna tell you right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Had
look.
you got that shirt from from Small World, I wouldn't assume that, because that would have actually looked black. You know, like my hoodie right here, the eye test hoodie right here. Get your stuff from Small World, and you don't have to worry about your t-shirt looking all types of crazy colors. Okay,
I'm gonna let you know one thing right now, Mark.
So
the plug ain't gonna help you.
Yo,
I mean,
Shawn,
listen, it was slick.
It's
But
not
I'm gonna tell you right now,
my fault that you're
Mark,
dressed for a funeral, Brody. Listen, black,
here's my
gray,
question for
it
you,
don't
Mark.
matter. You're in dark colors, and the 49ers are trash. All
If
right.
if you can't even see what colors I'm wearing, then how am I supposed to believe that you saw specific comments during our live stream, Mark?
Again,
I'm trying to figure this out.
Listen, when you're wearing a black hat, black, gray, you're wearing dark colors.
You don't even know your
dressed
colors,
for a funeral. I'm about to put you to bed. Good night. I'm the Undertaker tonight, baby. So
can't even see.
Anyway.
You can't even see straight, dog. You know what? That's fine. You know what? I'm glad it sounds like somebody here needs an eye test and a color vision test, because you don't know what the hell's going on here, Mark.
Well, you know what's crazy? Color vision is often in the eye test. That's why they have the green and red in it. Yeah.
Mark, when you go get an eye test, they don't ask you about the damn.
You don't need two different things for the test. It's just one test. But
no,
all right,
it's definitely a separate test. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, you never got your CMA.
You've never got your
CMA access when you was on the flight line, Mark.
You've never gotten a full eye test now, and that explains your problem now.
What I'm telling you,
problem now. You've never gotten a full eye test, because if you ever gotten one, you would know that depth perception, color vision, and you being able to read, it's all in there, all of it.
Mark, you know what I'm talking about. You obviously never had CMA access, because the only part of the eye test they give you, the only part of the eye test they give you when you go to work DNA, is the color vision test.
And that's all you need, Mark. It don't matter, dog. Stop talking to me like that. You
know what I'm saying? You can see clearly. You just don't know your colors. That's all.
Listen, we're going to get into sports now, okay? Is that okay with you? We get into sports now?
Hey, man, you can get into whatever you want, man. Just let me know if you need help with your colors today, and I got you.
You just let me know if you need something from Small World Artistry, because that shirt sucks. All right? So how about that? Let's start off there.
You know what? Nah, let's get into it.
Wasted too much time dealing with you.
Let's go.
Yo, so listen, man. We're going to get into this. As you can see, I'm already in a rare mood, because this fool over here is acting up. And like I said, man, we with our guy Tyrone and the Black Kratos. So we going so you know what time it is anytime they're around. It's UFC time. We're going to get into this UFC review, 257. And then we're going to talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame voting, Kyrie rejoining the team and what that looks like and what's their hopes for the future. And we're going to get into football after that. So with that being said, let's do it. All right, man. So, fellas, UFC 257 is in the books. Some surprising losses for some of us. So let's just go ahead and talk about it, man. So we're going to start off. I'm going to just start off with the question of did any of the wins or losses surprise any of you? And if so, which one? Don't have to give the detail of the fight just yet, just which one surprised you. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Chris.
The Dustin Poirier Conor McGregor fight.
Okay. So so it surprised you because Dustin won?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people have said it was an upset. It wasn't an upset, but it was just surprising how it went.
Okay, got it. Understood. Tyrone, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so you got Amanda Ribas. That was surprising, to me, at least. Of course, Conor McGregor going out to Dustin the way he did was surprising. Yeah, I think those are the only two that really surprised me.
Got it.
Oh, well, I would say Khalil Roundtree. His loss is surprising altogether. That's not really a loss in my book. So,
and another one as well, Dan Hooker. He looked pretty bad against Michael Chandler. I was surprised about that.
That was the part that I was gonna go ahead and say that was the surprise to me, the biggest surprise to me. He looked bad, like you said. He looked really bad, and I didn't expect it to be so lopsided.
All right, so you guys got Hooker, Revis, and Connor. For me, it's Connor. Well, actually, it's not even really Connor so much. Because, like, although I expected Connor to win, I did like the way that in which he lost. In my opinion, I was like, okay, it is what it is. That, like, these things happen anytime that you step into a UFC ring. And as far as but Rebus was a bit surprising for me. So with that, we're just going to get into it. Rebus was the first fight that I saw of the evening. That was the first one that I saw. And another fight that was surprising to me, was the Jessica I and Calderwood fight. And that was mostly because I told Tyrone, I was like, yo, I swear to God that they came into this joint with their block button broken. I didn't understand what was going on, dog. Like, the whole fight, I don't think I saw a single block. I just saw two women just hitting each other, and it was insane. So that was surprising to me, just to watch that, like, watch people just beat themselves in the face with no regard for defense. So, but as far as Rebus go, I thought Rebus had, in my opinion, was doing well in the fight, and it was going well. She had fair control on the ground and stuff, but when they in that stand up, when she got knocked out, she got caught reaching, and that's what surprised me, was that, like, she would overextend herself or her punches in that manner. Like, because that first punch, like, it was a bit of a reach, but then you followed it up with the two, and, like, you reached even further, and that's when you just got clocked on the jaw. And I was like, well, that's what's supposed to happen. Like, you extending outside your range, and now this person is taking you out. So I don't know. What did you see from that fight, Tyrone?
It's kind of like what you said. The first round went good for Rebus. The reason I chose her as a favorite is mainly her ground game is really good, and she's going against a striker. All fights start on the feet, but she's pretty aggressive when she gets on the ground. I thought she could probably finish it. When she got it on the ground, she was looking good. I think she underestimated her opponent because of that first round, which is why she was reaching. But what I did see there is that her stand-up isn't as great as it could be. Her ground game is good, and in the other fights I've seen, she has some momentum behind her because she fights on the ground, she finishes on the ground. But after seeing that, like, she's exposed. But yeah, she got caught. She got caught reaching, careless.
Yeah, very, very careless. Shawn?
Which fight are you guys talking about right now?
Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas.
Yeah. That one I didn't see, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that one. That's one of the ones I didn't catch.
Okay, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Because usually you try to bullshit your way through it, and I appreciate you just going ahead and accepting that you haven't seen the fight.
What do you mean bullshit my way through it? It's cool though. I mean, if that's what you call just outshining you in an argument, then that's what we're gonna call it. Okay. But continue.
All right. Yeah, Chris.
Well, I mean, let's talk about how bad Herb Dean was, man. Not stopping that fight as well, man, because that shit was over. After that, yeah, first time she dropped it. But no, I mean, Rodriguez is good, man. I think everybody kind of underestimated how good she is, man. So she's ranked ahead of her, and I mean, she's fought better competition. You know, Carla Esparza, Tisha Torres. She's fought some hitters, so I mean, she's good.
Well, that's fair.
I will say that. I will say I underestimated her a little bit, basically, because the UFC is kind of hyping Ribas a little bit. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Well, she's a personality, and you know how the UFC is with personalities. Yeah. She has a good personality. She's likable, so they hype her and they put the momentum behind her, and then you end up underestimating the person she actually went against. So, yeah, you're right. You're right. That does tend to happen sometimes in the UFC, but in that fight, I just don't expect anybody anybody that has a record of 10-1, well, at that time that had a record of 10-0, I don't expect you to get caught reaching like that. Like,
man, you can't go off those records because a lot of those we already talked about the record.
Yeah,
forget about I know I didn't see the fight, but forget about records. If you 10 fights in, you should know better.
Exactly. Like, that's what I'm saying about it.
Whether you won or lost, you 10 fights in, you got to know better than that.
So, yeah, man, moving on. But that was a very big, but Chris, you brought up an excellent point. That was a big thing. And like, that was very uncharacteristic of Herb Dean as well. Like, who has been known for stopping fights way too early throughout his tenure as a ref, in the UFC, to now in this fight, like, both fighters were confused. Like, is the fight over? And he was like, no, just keep fighting. Keep punching her in the face. It's not over.
It's not even. I don't even think it's this fight. Did he officiate the Max Holloway fight too? I want to say he did, and he almost let that man die. So,
he did, didn't he?
Anymore. Herb Dean is not saving anybody anymore. He will let you die.
But, hey,
in 2021. Happy medium, though, man.
No. See, I don't believe. Like, I'd rather it be this way than the other way. Like, because
stopping it early. Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I'd rather it be clear without a doubt. I mean, as long as people aren't getting, permanently damaged from this shit, then yeah, I'd rather it just be clear,
Right. Like, don't save somebody from a punch when they signed up to get punched in the face. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, anyway, moving on. The rest of these fights, the next fight after Ribas was Muradov versus Sanchez. Any takeaways from that fight, Tyrone?
No, that fight it went exactly the way I thought it was going to go. Sanchez, he looks good sometimes he doesn't. But Muradov, I knew Muradov was going to work him, and he did exactly what I thought he was going to do.
Okay, and Chris.
I mean, I don't really have any takeaways from that. It just went the way it was supposed to, really.
Yeah. All right, and Shawn.
That was another fight that I did not see. I'll tell you right now, I only saw 3 fights.
Okay.
So the next 3 fights we're gonna talk about, I'll have an opinion on.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Got it. You're
safe.
But yeah, so but yeah, that's right. Muradov pretty much went the way it was supposed to, and there was no real takeaways from this fight. So we feel comfortable just moving on from that fight and going directly into the Jessica Ai versus Joanne Calderwood. Like I said earlier, this was a fight in which the block button on their controller was gone. That shit was broken. So that was my big takeaway from this fight, was that, like, Jessica Ai came in. I was like, oh, I see it. She's kind of cute. And then she left, and I was like, nah, that ain't it.
Yeah, I guess.
I was like, nah, that ain't it at all. Like she got a face beating. They
Look
both
like
did.
they got in a fight.
They both did. Like that. I literally watched this girl. I watched this girl take a front kick to the face, and it wasn't particularly a particularly fast front kick. Like it was just like boom, and it came straight to her face, and she continued to just keep punching without blocking. Like
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I was gonna say, you talk about the face being beat up. I mean, halfway through round 2, I was like, man, what the hell's going on here, man? Y'all look crazy right now.
Yeah, that was over. That was insane. But any opinions from you, Tyrone?
Well, I kind of stayed away from this fight. I watched it, but before each UFC, like, you know, I get a lot of people asking me who they should bet on. This fight I stayed away from, mainly because they both were coming off losses, and looking at their record, they don't really have any knockout power. They're not knockout power people, and when they lose, they were losing to split decisions and unanimous decisions. I think they both had like a win-loss, 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 win. It wasn't any consecutive losses, any consecutive wins. That tells me, like you said, that they just go in there and just do whatever. And that's exactly what happened. They went in there and they just did whatever. And guess what? They got another unanimous decision. Whoever won that one, I think it was Joanne, got the unanimous decision. Yes. So it just went right along with what I was seeing anyway. So I stayed away from that one because there was like tossing in the air, whoever landed the most punches, because they both were going to stick their face out there and just hit each other. No blocking, no technique, no head movement, no takedowns. That's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, I think part of it was just kind of throwing caution to the wind because, you know, with Shevchenko, who's her next contender? I'm trying to think. Actually, I think what's her name recently is gonna fight her. I forget. Jessica Andrade. Mm-hmm. But I think the winner of this maybe put themselves in a position to get a potential title shot in the future. So I think maybe they were just kind of going for it a little bit. And, you know, like you said, the defense wasn't really there. But I think they were just trying to go for it, try and get a spectacular win. And that just didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't know if I wants to fight Shevchenko again. She was TKO'd.
Well, yeah, actually, thinking about it, she doesn't want to go there again. But I think Joanne Calderwood, she was supposed to get a title fight. It didn't happen, so maybe she was going for it.
So she was a little bit more motivated in this fight. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, you don't know what you're getting into.
I kind of don't want to do too well. I don't want to win. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I'll tell you what. I don't know I didn't know too much about these two fighters before going into this, and what I saw was what y'all saw: a sloppy fight. It was a sloppy fight, man. This isn't the type of sloppy fight that I would like to see. If I'm looking for a sloppy fight, it better be two stand-up folks just throwing, like, going at it, but being accurate, having knockout power, you know, the type of exciting fight that you would like to see. And this was more like, okay, they're kind of just hitting each other. Nobody's really doing enough damage to each other. Their faces are beat up because they're not doing anything defensively. Mark, you like to talk about footwork and ring control. None of that shit existed in this match. It was all stand up, and you would think that for a stand up fight that it would have looked differently, but that lets me know that they are poor at stand up, and they obviously don't want any parts of ground game. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to see either of these folks fight anybody outside of themselves, because like that was my takeaway from the fight was like, I mean, you guys are UFC fighters. You guys, I don't know how you guys ended up in the spot on the card that you did, but clearly something's going on here. Like Tyrone, I like the fact that you broke down their fights, their previous history, and it's either unanimous or a split. And it's just like, you can't just go in there and fight and hope that you're gonna win. And that's what it looked like these two ladies came in to do. They just came in and said, "Nope, I'm signed up to fight. You're my opponent. Cool. I ain't got no strategy. Let's throw fists." You know what I'm saying? So definitely not looking forward to any of their future fights.
Nah, Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Shawn. Is that if this was to set up like the idea of you having a title fight in the future, no. Like this lets me know that neither one of you are ready for a title fight.
No.
This was a terrible showing, even in the win. Like,
yes,
I don't ever want to see. I don't like. It's entertaining to watch, but I don't want to see you fight a champion like that. That's insane. So, yeah.
They were just missing a lot of fundamentals.
Oh, they were missing all the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Moving on. Michael Chandler versus Daniel Hooker. I'm gonna be honest. I did watch this fight, but I don't remember a lot of it.
Well, there wasn't really much of a fight.
Not much to remember.
And that's an indictment on the fight itself.
Dan doesn't remember either, just so you know. So don't feel bad. I said Dan doesn't remember either, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, like
he was there.
Yeah, like I don't exactly remember a lot of this fight, and that's an indictment of the fight itself. It being so quick and stuff like, okay. So, we're gonna start with you, Tyrone.
Yeah, I think you asked me who I picked, and I told you I picked Chandler. I'm a huge Dan Hooker fan. I like Dan Hooker. He's tough, rugged. You know what I mean? He's ambitious. But I haven't watched Michael Chandler a lot, but the little bit I did see when he was in Bellator, he was hurting people. You know, and I just felt that he had that type of power. It's the reason why he chose the name Mike Iron Chandler to imitate Mike Tyson. He hits hard. And Dan Hooker, you don't knock out Dan Hooker. That's just something you don't do. You can beat him to submission. You can beat him until his body gives up, but you don't knock him out. He fought Paul Felder. He took spinning elbows. This man fought Dustin Poirier, and he lasted through all those, you know. I think the only person that was able to break him was Barboza with a liver kick. But this man knocked him out in like 40 seconds of the first round. And not only was he knocking him out, he knocked him out. It wasn't like a flash knockout. He was manhandling. He was controlling the ring. It was one time he hit dude's shoulder and he like flew for a couple feet and he hit him with a Sparta kick. Like right off of that. That's when I was like, it's a wrap. So it went the way I thought it was going to go. I thought it may have went longer, to tell you the truth, but I thought Chandler was going to win because he was a good wrestler, has good hands. But I was shocked to see Dan Hooker go out the way he did. He ain't going to be the same after that fight. I can tell you that.
All right.
He ain't going to be the same. Dan Hooker, he starts out slow anyway. He's one of those people, if you don't know, he's one of those people that get in there and he wants to get the distance. He wants to see you get your timing down. He wants to take things slow in the first round, maybe throw a couple jabs. Chandler is not that guy. And if you follow him on Instagram, you know he's not that guy. He's 0 to 100. So he picked the wrong strategy for the wrong guy.
All right.
Yeah.
And Chris?
Yeah, Dan Hooker, I felt like he was just circling the whole time.
Yeah.
He was just circling the octagon. And he wasn't attacking. He wasn't really doing anything. So, yeah, I was just disappointed because usually he's a lot more aggressive than that with his knees, elbows, whatever. But he wasn't doing anything. So, yeah, I was disappointed. But I did think Chandler was going to win. I just thought maybe he'd test him a little bit. Maybe it would be a longer fight. He'd knock him down a few times. But, yeah, none of that happened. So I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Got it. And Shawn?
Yeah, so a few things that I wanted to piggyback off of what Tyrone said. He was talking about Dan Hooker's typical strategy when he gets in the ring and how he likes to feel things out. I personally, I mean, this is the thing. Coming from Bellator, I know some people had questions. People always have questions about people coming from Bellator or other places about the level of competition that they face. So whenever you have a technical fighter or a cautious, fighter like such as Dan, you would think that the match would have lasted longer than it did. Like Tyrone said, man, I thought it would last longer. That's why it was a surprise to me. With somebody that's that aggressive, it's just one of those. What I saw from the fight was Hooker was ill prepared. If you watch it, his eyes are wide open. as he's getting charged at. Like, he wasn't ready to get charged at. Like, I was just like, I don't know what you thought was supposed to happen in this fight or what you thought was going to happen. I don't know what you trained on. But I guess, and you mentioned the Iron Mike moniker, and it's like, yeah, that's one of the things that Mike Tyson used to do. He's gonna back you. Like, he isn't trying to control the ring in a way that a normal fighter would. He's running you down. He was running them down, like you said, punched him in the shoulder, gave him the Spartan kick, and I think that was one of those moments where he kind of looked and was like, man, what the hell is going on? And it was just like, yo, you ain't got much time to figure this shit out, so you better. And he didn't. He got knocked out very shortly after that, and it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know what his preparation was coming into this fight, but I think he was ill prepared. I think he should have had a better game plan other than trying to outrun him. Basically, he was trying to just, kind of dance around the ring and give himself time to feel him out. And, Chandler did not give him that time. He didn't afford him that time to do it. So that's why you saw him not being aggressive, him not attacking, was because he didn't even get a chance to assess the situation yet. But yes, it was definitely a good fight by Chandler. He did what he was supposed to do, which was set the tone early, and clearly that was a huge deciding factor in how quickly the match ended.
Yeah. Also, what Dan Hooker stated in one of his pre-fight interviews, because I watched the embedded and whatnot. Okay. He doesn't watch tape. He's not a tape watcher. And one of the things about Chandler that he had the advantage in this fight is a lot of people don't watch Bellator. So you have to go back to their tape. And a lot of the UFC fighters, they have this superiority, like you go to Bellator after you washed out here. So if he was in Bellator, I don't need to watch his tape, whatever. So when he got in there, he was ill prepared because he didn't know this dude's style at all. And he said he fights for a living, he trains, and the last thing he wants to do is sit around for hours and watch tape. So he doesn't need to watch tape. He may change his mind after
yeah, I think he feels differently. That's a question that I wanted to ask you guys, because like I said, I know there were some people that had questions about Chandler coming from Bellator. Is that a normal question that you guys have with fighters that are coming from Bellator? And does this win from Chandler change your ideas about it?
Well, it can go either way, right? Like you can get guys like Will Brooks. He was the Bellator lightweight champion. He came to the UFC and he got smoked. But then you get some of these other guys that come from Bellator or come from another organization, like Justin Gaethje came from World Series of Fighting, PFL it's called now. But like you can get it either way. But I think, most of us knew Michael Chandler's reputation and we expected this from him. So it just depends what the person's done. Like Michael Chandler's fought these UFC fighters, Eddie Alvarez, or former UFC fighters, Eddie Alvarez, Benson Henderson. He's fought these guys. So he's got that high level of competition. So I think most of us probably expected this from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he trains with Kamaru Usman. I mean, he's knocked out and fought UFC fighters before they were champions and after they've been UFC champions. So I think when he was in Bellator, he knocked out Benson Henderson as well. So
Dan Hooker was just out here being stupid.
Yeah, he probably was just, being arrogant, And, you get that. I mean, I saw it, Michael Chandler, he was kind of lulling you in because this is the first time we've seen him. And he was supposed to be a backup for Khabib and Gaethje. So he was there and he's very polite. He's very, soft-spoken. He's not out there like Conor McGregor, you know what I mean? And some of these guys might have been like, who does this guy think he is trying to jump the line? We're ranked fighters. We don't even know who this guy is coming from Bellator. That's where all our retired fighters go. Like, we ain't going to respect this guy. And that's what you get, So,
yeah, I guess if you keep sleeping,
you can see it all over Hooker's face. He was taking the gloves off. I thought he was about to retire to take the shoes. I was like, oh no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what that explains to me, like you saying he don't watch film and all that shit. Like, I guess that explains to me why he had that shocked look on his face when he was getting not walked down. He was getting ran down. He ran down on, and he was like,
I've never seen anybody get Sparta kicked while they were running away, like in the chest.
That shit was a mean-ass little stubby leg kick, man. That shit was crazy.
Yeah, he bounced off the gate like a pinball. It was ridiculous.
Tree trunk legs, man. He kicked the shit out of it. Go ahead.
Listen, I don't have anything for this fight. You guys covered it all for me, honestly. Excellent job, fellas. You guys are spot on in your assessment of this fight as far as I'm concerned. So far be it for me to add on to what is already being said. And besides that, let's get into the fight that really counts and the fight that really matters. Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's first fight in 2 years, correct?
1 year last January.
Okay, so last January. So Conor McGregor's first fight in over a year. So honestly, that kind of changes my assessment a little bit because the ring rust, like, it's not that bad if you fought just last year. But Conor McGregor, in my opinion, like I said, actually, I'm going to say my opinion for last, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Chris on this one. What did you see in this fight, Chris?
Well, just to address the ring rust real quick. So he's actually, I mean, yeah, he fought last year, but he's only fought, that was 1 round that fight lasted, and then 2018 he fought Khabib. And that was 4 rounds. So that's only 5 rounds.
You really want to
in like the past 3 years, you know?
You want to count the Cowboy fight as like an actual round? That shit was like
yeah, exactly. So that's even less time, you know what I mean? So it's not, he hasn't had a lot of time. And like listening to opinions, I mean, in hindsight, really, we shouldn't be surprised that this happened just because of his inactivity and because of what Poirier has been doing recently. So it was just, the biggest surprise for me was that he got TKO'd. I did not expect that. I was not expecting that at all because obviously we haven't seen it. We've only seen him get submitted. But he just, I mean, Poirier just took him out just like that. And I mean, if you've seen their first fight as well, granted that was like, 7 years ago now, but still, man, I mean, Conor's got the touch of death, you know, with the left hand. So you thought Poirier was going to go down. He hit him a few times, but he just didn't go down. And I think Conor McGregor, when that didn't happen, he was kind of like, oh shit, you know, he kind of didn't have a plan B. And another thing I was clapping about when Poirier took him down, I was like, well, it's about time somebody did that because people always want to stand with him for some reason. And obviously, yeah, he TKO'd him, but I think the threat of the takedown possibly made that possible as well. So,
well, do you think, real quick question throw in there at you while you're talking, do you think, what do you rate Conor's takedown defense?
It's not, I mean, it's not terrible. Like I've seen way worse guys that just get taken down for fun, but I would say it's decent. But I mean, he's
better against the gate. Like if you get him against the gate, he can stop you. But in the middle of the ring, he ain't that good.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah. So yeah, it was just surprising. But I was happy when I saw him when he took him down. I was like, okay, he might be in a bit of trouble here because now he's mixing in the takedowns, which obviously a lot of guys don't. I mean, look at actually Eddie Alvarez did as well, and obviously Khabib took him down plenty of times, but. Obviously, that is kind of Conor's weakness. Well, you know, that's the only weakness we've seen in his game up until this fight, of course, where we saw the leg kicks. Yeah, we saw the leg kicks. We saw, like, all kinds of things that he didn't look like he was prepared for. So I think he was just relying on the left hand, and he thought, I'm going to get this guy out of here in 60 seconds, like he said. It didn't happen. He didn't have a plan B, and that's what happened.
All right, and Shawn, we'll go with you here.
Sure. This fight, I'm not too shocked that Poirier won. I just looked at it as one guy's been very active and he's a pretty good stand-up guy, and you have another guy who's been inactive. I mean, regardless of him being Conor, I still felt like the edge would go to Poirier, but at the same time, Conor's a guy who has knockout power, and that shit has been has stood the test of time, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that, you know, was a concern. So, but surprise, surprise to me, Poirier took those shots and I thought he was in trouble for sure. And I was like, usually this is where you see guys get finished by Conor. He got staggered. I mean, when he landed those punches, they looked like they hurt. So I don't know whether it's Poirier having a tougher chin or Conor losing a little steam off his punches, but they still look like they fucking hurt, and Poirier took them pretty well. So I'll give credit to Poirier for not getting knocked down by those or taking out a fight with those. Conor, I know I mentioned this to Mark before. I thought that Conor wasn't as aggressive as he usually is, and I understand that he's fighting Poirier, a stand-up guy who can go blow for blow with him, and that is a threat. Like, you don't want to walk into a situation where you're walking into the person's strong suit. But I also felt like I would have liked to see Conor be a little bit more aggressive in the ring. At the very least, I would have liked to see some type of defense against the leg kicks. But all in all, Chris, I have to agree with you. I think he didn't have a plan B. I think once he landed like 3 of those shots, man, and he ate them. He recovered for all 3 of them, and I don't think Conor was ready for a situation like that. And once Poirier got him with a good one, I personally thought that Conor could have done a little bit more to defend himself. I don't know if he still was in shock. I don't know if it was a situation to where he just wasn't prepared for that or what, but I felt like it wasn't like he got finished quickly. But all in all, the biggest takeaway for me was Conor's demeanor in the ring. And I felt like his demeanor has changed since taking the time off, since getting the big bag of money, and since, you know, losing the fights that he has lost. A lot of people try to credit this to Mayweather humbling him, but I don't even think that's what it is. I think it's a combination of time off, losing to Khabib in the manner that he did, considering the history of that fight and everything that went on before it. I think that is what has damaged his psyche a little bit more than anything else, that and the money. So that's what I see. I think Conor can recover from this. I think we haven't seen the best of what he has to offer since his vacation, I guess. But I'm still going to watch these fights to see what he comes with. But I do expect him to get better as he gets more fights under his belt.
All right. Tyrone?
Yeah, so it's a couple things that I noticed that probably contributed to it. First one I noticed is that everybody was questioning his cardio when they were talking about him fighting a stand-up fighter. We went back to Nate Diaz, they went back to Khabib, and they would say that he looked gassed. And as you know, I don't know if you guys do know, he came out with this new McGregor fast cardio fitness thing, whatever he's starting. And so one of the things I noticed he did say, and I think it may have played into the fight, is he said they asked him when he would finish Poirier, and he said that he'd possibly finish him in the first round. He was like, but you know what? People's been questioning my cardio. I want to prove that's a myth. So who knows? I might drag it out a little bit longer. Maybe he did that. Because like you said, his demeanor was not the same. Now we know how Conor McGregor is. He goes out there and he's aggressive. He's throwing head kicks. He's throwing knees. He's doing spinning back kicks, jumping knees. He's doing a multitude of punches, combinations, body shots. He didn't do that this time.
Yeah, real quick, in there, I would say usually he wouldn't wait till he staggers you.
Right.
Go in for the kill. He's going in for the kill regardless of whether you're damaged or not. That's
right.
fine.
And that's something that we had never seen. Even against Khabib, he went in there like 100%. I've never seen him stand there and just box. I think he threw one head kick. Out of the total strikes between two fighters, Poirier threw one more punch than he did. They both landed 52 strikes on 53 to 52 strikes on each other.
Yeah.
Poirier is also more durable because he's more active. He's been in wars, you know, so he's taking those shots and he's able to recover from them. McGregor, like you said, his last fight, he was in there for 90-some seconds. So he couldn't take those shots. I don't think he could take that punishment. And then the last part why I think that, you know, affected him, and this is just a myth, my myth, he brought his kids. You don't bring your kids to war. You know what I mean? You can't be sitting up in the back being daddy, playing horsey, ride on my horse, you know, I'll be a little horsey, I'll give you an airplane ride, and then go out there and have to take somebody's head off. You're too comfortable. You're not focused. You're not aggressive. You're not mean. You're not trying to take this guy's head off. You're back here playing with your kids.
Well, you're trying to set a good example for the kids.
Yeah, you don't bring your kids to battle. There's a reason you leave your family home when you go to war. You don't, you know what I mean? They take the edge off. You know, you show up on the yacht, it's a family vacation.
I guess not everybody's built like that. I could imagine Mark going to war and looking back and being like, pay attention. And then just going to war. Like, I guess everybody's built differently though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Some people will just be like, watch daddy work. You know what I'm saying? Cover your eyes if you need to. You know?
I don't know whether or not to take that as a compliment or not. Like,
no, that's a compliment. That's a compliment. Like, you know, I'm just saying, like, you would have been more prepared for that. If you thought that was going to be a problem, you would have left the kids at home, or you'd be like, look, you know, sometimes it ain't pretty. This is reality, though. Let's go.
Hey, I mean, I've been watching this for a minute, man. Donald Cerrone, when he got beat real bad, got his nose broke. He had his son in the crowd with the headphones on. Like, good man, he brought his son. Like, anytime I see fighters showing up with the kids, I'm like, he's losing automatically. Uriah Faber came back. He looked good one time. He had his daughter, Callie, in the crowd. He's waving in the, hey, Callie. Bam, gets demolished. It's like, you can't bring the kids to battle, bro. You can't.
Your mind can't be outside the ring, man.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Can't do it, so.
Yeah. Is that it, Tyrone?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I mean, you guys are correct in that statement. I will say, I mean, Ryan Davis, the comedian, actually spoke on this as well, and I was like, oh, that's very true. Like, you can't come into this without that swagger and trying to be the good example for your kids or whatever. Like, no, you have to come into this being the good example of being the dominant fighter, like not being the good example of like, I'm a good guy. If that's not who you've been, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, like I think the whole Khabib being a good guy in the ring thing is a myth. Like, I think that's a myth. Like, that's nonsense. That's impossible. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm not going to break your arm. Like, no. Like it's going.
There you go. Listen to DC again.
Yeah, it's going to
listen to DC.
Yeah, you do that shit. So, as far as the fight go, I thought Conor did well in the first round. He could have been more aggressive for sure, and his attack could have varied more, but I think that was just more being respectful of his opponent and trying to feel him out. But I did feel as though Conor won the first round. Like,
yeah,
I felt like he even with the takedown, like I felt like he won the first round as well. I edged it to him.
So I can't really say, I can't really speak to the aggressiveness portion, because I feel as though in the first round, that could have been him just being respectful of the fact of like, I've watched this dude's film. He's not the same fighter I fought 7 years ago. Like, I gotta be mindful of what I'm doing here. But when it came to blows, like, it wasn't like he was holding back. Like, one thing that I did like that he did was his reversal on the cage. Like, when he was leaned up against the cage, his reversal on the cage was very nice. and you saw like his shoulder throws, like them things, like I don't know how he gets so much into his shoulder throws, like them.
He gets to that whole body weight, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Poirier was throwing shoulder throws, and it was like, okay, that's cute.
They look different.
Yeah, like it was a huge difference between those shoulder throws.
When they slowed it down, you could see Poirier's face. He was like, made the old shit look when he got hit the first one.
And Mark, to your point about the cage reversal and the shoulder throws, to me, those are the two that reversed my, obviously that's what changed the tide of that first round to Connor's favor. Without those two things happening, Connor loses that round.
Yeah. So, the first round definitely, and I felt as though in the second round, this was just more so, like kudos to Poirier's game plan. Like, because I'm trying to think back, I don't remember any fighter, fighting Connor with the game plan of taking away your stability, like with the leg kicks. I'm really trying to think back. Has he experienced that in the UFC before, where somebody focused on trying to take his legs from under him?
Well, no. I mean, this is the first time. Like, you got to remember, the first fight they had, he was in his head. This is kind of the first. It was weird to see Connor be nice. So I haven't seen anybody do that. They turned into an ego battle.
Yeah, that's so that's what I'm saying. Like when you watch this, like I can't even necessarily say it was us or his kids factor, because when it comes to those leg, I think it's just I think the leg kicks was just an inexperience of dealing with leg kicks, so and even in that, I felt as though the round was even. It's just that, like, obviously we've seen it many of fighters. Like leg kicks
we know what leg kicks can do.
Yeah, we know what leg kicks can do. Leg kicks will slow you down quickly. Like they will stop your game pass. They will stop your game plan fast.
Yeah.
So like, if you're not used to checking leg kicks, that's going to stop your game plan fast.
Yeah.
And we saw early Connor, they were like, he's not checking these leg kicks. And I was like, well, like in the very beginning, when he was first throwing them, he was checking them. He was just checking them incorrectly, because he was like, when they were coming,
he was just crouching down.
He would plant his foot. He would plant his foot and lean into it.
Yeah.
And that's completely incorrect. He's just not used to dealing with leg kicks. And then after that, it was just like he didn't know what to do, and he was a little bit slower, but they were still even. And when it comes to the knockout itself, that's where I say, like, these things just happen. Like, you're stepping in the MMA ring, and I don't take anything away from Connor in this fight, me personally, because you step into this ring. This is just like boxing, but more so, like, one punch can change the whole fight. You could be getting your ass beat for 5 rounds. One punch could end the fight. And it happens often in MMA. And so, and in this particular case, he connected. The punch that really ended the fight was the punch before Connor leaned into the cage. That was the.
I mean, when he tried to slip and he ran into that uppercut? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, when he ran into that.
How you got a big ass?
A whole different look on his face after that.
Yeah, when he ran into that punch, and he fell into the cage. Poirier saw it, and it's like kudos on Poirier for seeing immediately. Oh, this is my show, and that's why even when Connor was trying to dip, Poirier wasn't stopping, because he could see, like, this is just your body auto responding right now. You're trying to escape. I'm not going to let it happen. And so Connor's body was just auto responding, trying to escape so he can wake up. But Like, and Poirier just kept swinging, so he hit him. So then he actually connected with another good punch that put him down. And it's like, but that punch that put him down wasn't the one. It was the punch that put him into the cage in the first place. And so, and like, it's like that stuff is going to happen. And it's like Poirier he did what he was supposed to do. This wasn't anything bad on Conor. It was just like, okay, you just got caught with one. And that's going to happen. The only thing that I will say is bad on Conor is you better learn how to check some leg kicks, brother. Because that's going to be a bad day. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So two things I wanted to respond to is because I know Tyrone mentioned the whole takedown thing and surprised people don't take, like, everybody's like, man, I don't really remember anybody really trying to take him down like that. People don't even attempt it. And then Mark talking about the leg kicks and don't remember nobody attempting it. And I think a huge factor to that was Conor's aggressiveness previously. You have to be stationary for people to get leg kicks off. You have to be, when he's rushing you and he's controlling the tempo and he's dictating the pace of the fight, then your opportunity for leg kicks go away. Your opportunity for takedowns are lessened. They don't go away. Somebody should still have tried these things on him previously. But I think part of what, Poirier had the right game plan. You're right. But part of what lent itself to that game plan is the fact that, Conor came in there respecting his opponent, as you said, being very diligent in his attack, you know what I'm saying? Being kind of this, being a little bit more, I don't want to use the word hesitant, Mark, but disciplined. He is being more disciplined in his approach offensively. But I feel like that's where I feel like he went wrong, because like if that's going to be your game plan, if that's going to be the new Conor, then that's fine, Mark. But like you said, if that's going to be the new Conor, you better have takedown defense and you better have leg kick defense, because these are the things that regular normal fighters have to do to protect themselves from people like you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is his first time. It's almost like you're watching him for the first time not being the aggressor in the fight.
Well, it's that. And if you remember all his fights, they made a huge spectacle out of every fight. You got media, you got him doing his thing, they putting him on stage, you got fans booing, you got fans tweeting the other guy and getting in his head. This time, Dustin, it was no spectacle to be made. It was just calm, cool, collective, go out there and do your game plan. And I think a lot of fighters, like Eddie Alvarez is a wrestler. Eddie Alvarez didn't even try to wrestle him because they had made a huge spectacle out of it. He said it afterwards. He got in my head. So
the intimidation factor.
Yeah. Well, he got a lot of those guys don't like the camera on their face, 24/7. They don't want to be the main event where everybody's watching you and judging you and you're the bad guy. You got a whole country of Ireland coming over booing you, So I don't think that Dustin was out of his game plan. He was, like you said, he was calm, cool, collected, and he had no reason to be flustered or angry.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a intimidation factor as far as what you were saying, Shawn.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a matter of, it is a psychological factor of getting someone out their game plan. It's just, but it's not an intimidation factor. I think it's more so like he gets in your head to where, like, now this is where I can speak. I'll say, like, maybe this was the benefit of the old Conor, because the old Conor talked so crazy to you that you like, I want to beat this dude in the face. Like, so then you naturally come in wanting to stand up against him.
That wouldn't be me. I would be the guy that'd be like, I don't want to be a highlight reel. I don't want him to sit at a press conference and be like, I'm gonna knock this dude out with a front kick, and then he do it.
Well, Mark is,
He's like the boogeyman.
Mark is making a good point, because there's certain fighters that can harness that anger and it makes them more focused, but that's rare. Not everybody's like that. piss off John Jones if you want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to make him focus more. Like, there's certain people that know how to harness that and they know how to work within that realm. You know what I'm saying? And most fighters, let's keep it book. Most of these fighters don't know how to do that, man. And a guy like Conor is a perfect example of somebody who feeds off of that. Talk shit to Conor if you want to. It's going to make him more focused. You know what I mean? I feel like certain guys feed off of it and certain guys don't. And like Mark said, you talk to a guy crazy, sometimes they're like, look, I know this is boxing, but that's a little too crazy. And then that just throws them completely off of their game plan because they have a totally different agenda now.
Right.
It's not about winning the fight anymore. It's about embarrassing him.
Exactly.
When you go to try to do that, what's your best move? I'm gonna beat his game.
Like we've seen many fighters like go into a fight like where like you're the much longer fighter and you usually throw jabs or whatever, but for some reason you come into like somebody questions your knockout power. Oh, you can't knock nobody out. You can't do this, blah, 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 blah. And instead of coming in and fighting a smart fight and keeping this dude at distance and beating his face in with your jab or with your straights, now all of a sudden you find yourself standing in the middle trying to bang with hooks and uppercuts. Mm-hmm. Like we see that all the time. And yes. So like that may be a factor as well, is that Conor, like adult Conor is not conducive to his game plan. Yes. Because immature Conor got you to stand up with him and fight him according to his terms because you wanted to prove that you could take his punch, or you wanted to prove that you can deal it as much as you have to take it.
I'm just saying. Well, I was gonna say, Mark, when I'm pissed off at somebody, the first thing I want to do is punch them in the face.
Right.
I'm not thinking about kicking them in their legs, Mark. I'm just saying, like, it's a different type of demeanor.
Exactly. So like that. So that may be. That may be the case. It may have very little to do with Conor's demeanor or the way that he approached it, but has everything to do with immature Conor got you to approach it incorrectly. So there's a lot of factors to look into it but I will say, but as far as I'm concerned, I do not think this is an indictment on Conor. I think this fight went according to, this is just the cost of getting into the ring. Like somebody can catch you. Like you know what I mean? Like this is a any given Sunday scenario. Anybody could get caught. Anybody could get knocked out. Like because the way I saw it, outside of him just taking leg kicks and checking them incorrectly, he fought good for it to be the first round in the beginning of the second. Chris.
Well, let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me just ask. I just want to ask you guys a question, because you were talking about, Mark, how you don't really hold much against Conor. Like, how much do you guys feel like his stock drops after this loss? Like, is he like? Does it? The saying was, Conor McGregor versus a broomstick sells 1 million pay-per-views.
Right.
Is that still the case, or do you think his stock has significantly dropped after this?
With the right fight, I think that he'll be good. Like it's not many more. The Khabib fight is gone. Ain't nobody going to watch that anymore. It'd have to be Dustin for the third time, or Tony Ferguson.
Nate Diaz. I think Nate Diaz would be.
I forgot Nate Diaz. So his 2 trilogy fights would sell. I definitely would watch the Poirier 3. Nate Diaz, I don't know if I watched that one, but or Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's on a 2-fight skid, so that would sell, I think. So it did drop, but not as much as people say. Like some people are saying he should retire. I don't think he's to that level.
That's it.
Yeah, for me, I would say it dropped, but it dropped only because this is his 4th loss or 5th.
somewhere around there. But that's the only reason why it dropped for me is because when you watching Legends and you want to watch Legends be great, you like there's only but so many losses a legend can take before like even it like because it's not a situation for me like his stock dropped because I do not think Conor McGregor can perform on a high level anymore. I still believe Conor McGregor could like he could perform on a high level and he could be in the ring with the champion. I believe that. It's just his stock dropped simply because you're starting to reach that loss quota. And that's and like whether that's because you had some amazing fights in your career or not, you're still starting to reach that loss quota. And so that's why his stock drops for me. Like his next opponent, like he would have to like basically get on top of them and like dominate.
Yeah, he'd have to. He have to have another Donald Cerrone moment, pretty much.
Yeah,
another one or a Jose Aldo moment.
Yeah,
again. Yeah, you have to get back into the contention for the belt. He's out of the conversation for the belt right now. Right now, you got the other people in the conversation for the belt, so he's out. So that excitement's gone. He'd have to get back there by dominating a couple more opponents to get it back up.
Yeah. So I'll say his stock drops. I don't care how much you think his stock dropped. Outside of John Jones and Izzy, he's still going to be the biggest. Like you have John Jones, Izzy, and you have Conor, and then you have everybody else. So he's still going to, even if his shit drops, the gap between him and everybody else is so large.
Are you talking about as far as sales?
Yes, as far as selling tickets.
Okay. I just wanted it to be clear for everybody that's listening.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, no. As far as selling tickets, the draw is still going to be so. And I didn't put them in any particular order, but those three guys are going to sell tickets regardless of who they fight. I still feel it's the same way for Conor. Everybody else, it does matter who they fight. His stock drops only because I'm not even going to equate it to losses. I'm not going to equate it to that. I mean, losses is part of the reason, but the main reason is the mystique. When people used to pay for Tyson fights, they're looking for, if you don't get excitement, you're getting a knockout of a complete domination of somebody, and that's what you look for in a Conor fight. You either was going to get an exciting 3-round fight where it's a slugfest, knockdown, drag out, and you're looking for him to knock somebody out in the third, or you get a fight where he's just cleaning somebody up early, and a little bit of that mystique has worn off only because of his two recent fights. The Khabib fight didn't go that way, and this fight didn't go that way only because it didn't last long enough. If this fight stayed the way it was and went 3 rounds, then that mystique is still there. I think the problem is, like, when it comes to that, when it comes to selling tickets and that mystique, it's a situation to where it does matter how you lose, because nobody give a fuck how he lost to Nate Diaz. Like, that shit was, everybody was just like, we want to see you guys fight tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that mystique, and actually, even though he lost, it added to everything. You know what I'm saying? So I think that his stock has dropped a little bit. People still want to see him on the bounce back. You know what I'm saying? So now he went from being the bad guy as to why people were watching him. Whether you like bad guys or you hate him, he was the bad guy. Now it's a situation where people are looking for redemption. People are looking for the comeback, the bounce back. So therefore, people are still going to have interest in watching a Conor fight. So
what did Dana say? He called it Rocky 3, like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but he can't lose. He can't lose in a dominating fashion or unexciting fashion if he wants to keep that mystique about him and be able to be a draw for ticket sales.
Yeah. Alrighty. Excellent. Well, guys, I'm gonna just say this right here, Doug. That was I feel as though that coverage from UFC 257 was amazing. I believe this is where we do bid Chris adieu, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you have any outgoing words, Chris, before we let you go, so you can go ahead and do what you have to do?
Nah, thanks for the invite, guys. College sucks. So yeah, man, that's about it, man. You know, kicking my ass right now. So yeah, that's why I got to get out of here.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, thanks for the invite, man.
I was gonna say,
Well, listen, man.
but,
When
you
this
know,
episode is out, share it with your classmates. I know you in the sports journalism stuff. Like, yo, share it with your classmates. I want their feedback of what they feel as though our show is, or where we can improve, all that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So share it. Like, maybe we'll pick up some new subscribers and all that. I would love to. But yeah, man, love having you on with us for UFC and boxing. It's nice when we don't get abused by Tyrone all day because he has so much knowledge. So you know what I'm saying. So when we
need some type of defense, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? It's nice because Tyrone be like pulling out stats from like UFC 2, and I don't know.
Hey, Mark, what I was gonna mention at first, I was gonna mention how Tyrone graciously made it through the episode, but then I had to remember the part where he ended up mentioning Daniel Cormier anyway.
He did.
We can't make it through.
No, that wasn't his fault. That wasn't his fault.
He didn't have to take the bait, Mark.
He did, but that wasn't his fault.
If you throw anything DC out there, I'm stabbing it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you know right now.
You could have been classy and not take the bait.
No, I'm sad. Hey, every chance he gets to be petty, he does it. So I'm gonna go ahead and stab it. Just in case we get some new subscribers, they don't know how I feel. Now they know.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I got you.
I will stand to it to this day. One of our best episodes is "It's Only So Long Fake Legends Can Pretend." If you guys haven't watched that episode or listened to that episode, go back and listen to that episode. That's right off the heels of Daniel Cormier's loss. So go check that one out, man. Anyway. With that, Chris, thanks for joining us, sir. And we're going to go ahead and let you go.
All right. See you guys.
We're going to just start off with baseball here. This is breaking news from today. Nobody is going into the Hall of Fame this year. There was no votes for this year. And this isn't just for those out there, this isn't a random occurrence. This has happened before. This has happened 9 times before, actually. This has happened in 2013, 96, 71, 65, 60, 58, 50, and 45. Were all empty. I'm going to just start there. So let's... and just to let you guys know, there still will be a ceremony this year because they canceled the ceremony in 2020 for that class because of COVID. So basically, the ceremony this year is going to make up for Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, Ted Simmons, and Mark Miller. So you will get to see their enshrinement this year. So there still will be a ceremony. But we're going to start off right there with this one here. I'm going to just ask you guys, how do you guys feel about the idea of we don't feel as though anybody belongs in this year, so there's just not going to be one? I'll start with you, Shawn.
Man, this is once again another reason why people don't like baseball. This, Mark, is a very blatant stab at the people that they feel, proven or unproven, have been steroid users. You know, they could have. Of course, there's nobody that they can put in. I just think that this is a situation where you have guys that have waited, that have waited for 25 years, Mark, that haven't got in because of some of the great players that have come after them. You know what I'm saying? This happens in every sport where somebody you get a guy like basketball, for example. Man, some of these older guys don't get in because you got guys like Kobe popping up, you got guys like Chris Paul popping up everywhere now, and they just kind of fall to the wayside. You know what I'm saying? This would be a perfect window of opportunity for some of those older guys that were great that just happened to be just on the fringe for them to get in. And it seems as though baseball is taking this opportunity not to let them in, but to make a statement by not letting anybody in. I feel like it's petty. I feel like I really feel like they need to keep the politics and the BS whatever stuff that they're trying to prove. They need to keep the BS and the politics outside of the Hall of Fame. That's what the Hall of Fame is supposed to be about, play on the field. To say that nobody is worthy in an entire year when you have an X amount of candidates, 1 million candidates, it just seems crazy to me, Mark. I don't know how you feel about it, but
I'm gonna let you know right now. I disagree with you.
You disagree? Go ahead.
I will get to my comment after we hear from Tyrone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually don't know how I feel about it. I know we talked about earlier. It was some performance enhancing drug users. They feel like they want to not include them because they may have used performance enhancing drugs. And I don't know, because other sports allow certain people in, even though they have that asterisk by the name. That's what the asterisk is there for. Yeah. So you can make the determination for yourself who is better in the Hall of Fame, you know what I mean? Well, I think this guy's better because doesn't have an asterisk, but it doesn't mean it didn't take any hard work to get in there. So, I mean, I guess I can see it from both perspectives. Like, I see what they're trying to do, saying, hey, if you do this is going to affect your legacy. So our future stars and future guys in here, stay away from it because you see what it did to the other guys. But at the same time, back then, like in some of these guys, everybody was doing it. It just didn't get caught, Yeah. So I guess saying it that way, I kind of disagree with it. I don't think they should do it that way.
Okay. So I'm just going to explain my take on this for you guys. I disagree because for a while now, we talk about this, and a lot of other sports, a lot of other sports, but the two major sports that out of the three, football and basketball, it feels like, okay, just about if you were good or great, you're going to get into the Hall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like the Hall is an open door in those two sports, particularly in football. Like, when I watch a guy get into the Hall after being nominated for 60 years, like, what? Like, no. Like, you don't deserve to be, like, if it took you 45 years for you to get into the Hall, then you didn't deserve to be in the Hall. Like, like, that's just a fact. I'm sorry, dog. Like, and that's like, so like, it feels like the Hall is just like a way to say kudos to a guy, or to pay, or like, you know what I mean, to give a guy an attaboy randomly, and a lot of times it's undeserving, and it lessens the Hall, in my opinion. Now, I would say this about the Hall, like, with baseball, on the other hand, because they have instances like this, like, I mean, because this instance has to do, when it comes to Barry Bonds and Rod and Clemens, yeah, like, this instance has to do with their steroid use and stuff. But, like, in past years, like in '96, and like in the '60s and stuff, that wasn't a case. Like, you know what I mean? The case had nothing to do with steroids, because steroids wasn't a thing then. Like, this was about, like, did you represent the game in the right way? Did you, like stats was the first thing, but then it was, are you, like, did you live by quote unquote the integrity of the game and all that stuff? And if they hold that standard, like then it adds to that like you deserve to be here. Like when I look at Willie Mays, like you know what I mean, when I look at Willie Mays and I'm like, yeah, he deserves to be here. When I look at Hank Aaron, like you know what I mean, like he deserves to be here. Like you know what I mean, like I look at their achievement and I'm like, wow, like you know what I mean. I'm not looking at a guy like, oh, he was just good. Like no, the hall is filled with phenomenal players. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not looking at anybody like that were just good. Like I truly feel as though in the NFL, Joe Flacco may end up in the hall simply because he won a Super Bowl. And Joe Flacco should not be sniffing the hall at all in the NFL. So, and that's like, so I'm okay with it. Like, because everybody want to talk about the accolades of Barry Bonds and this, that. Like, I'm going to move on into my next point because everybody wants to talk about the accolades of Barry Bonds and all that stuff, or all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those accolades, like you could say, oh, that takes a phenomenal athlete to do that. Yeah, it takes a phenomenal athlete on juice to do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the point. He's doing, like, you can't say he's doing superhuman stuff and it should be recognized when he's clearly doing superhuman stuff because he's taking drugs. Like that. Like, I don't look at, like, Captain America isn't nothing special. That dude is on steroids. Like, what up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Captain America is on a super soldier serum. And I'm supposed to be impressed by that? Like, no, that's not achievement. Somebody shot you up with some shit. Like, there's no achievement about that. Like, and I'm gonna be honest particularly when it comes to Barry Bonds. Like, I feel this way about Mark McGwire. I feel this way about other people as well. I feel this way about Alex Rodriguez to a degree. But Barry Bonds holds a particular spot for me as far as disdain because he never took ownership of it.
Yeah.
And he went out because he should have retired, but he went out his way knowing he's on steroids to break Hank Aaron's, like, now recently Hank Aaron passed, God rest his soul, but he went out his way to break Hank Aaron's record, knowing that he's shooting up and is on the dirty juice. Like, that bothers me because I watched the Hank Aaron documentary and stuff. Like Barry Bonds, you went out your way to do something, to break something, which was
like you cheated with the purpose of breaking that record.
Exactly.
It was very deliberate.
Exactly. And not only did you cheat with the purpose of breaking the record, but you extended your career with the purpose of breaking the record while cheating. Like, that's nuts to me, especially given the fact that, like, for you, it's just the accolade of breaking the record. But for Hank Aaron, breaking that record at that whole time that everybody knew that he was going to eventually break the record and they could see it, this dude is getting hate mail. He's getting threats to his home. He's getting, like, everything is like all, like, because, you know, this is in the heart of, you know, where that level of racism still exists, especially in baseball. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, he's getting threats to his home. He says he was at one point getting 3,000 hate mails a day, and he kept all of them. and I don't know if you guys ever saw it or went back to watch it, but when Hank Aaron hit that home run, like, it was one of the most beautiful moments in the world. When he hit that home run, two white guys ran onto the field, but they didn't run on the field to attack him. They ran onto the field to guard him. Like, they ran, like, side by side with him to make sure that he didn't get hurt. And they basically escorted him around the bases. Like that's a beautiful moment that you went out your way to take away with cheating. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Fuck you, dog. Like, you don't get no respect from me, Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel.
Okay, so what I want to bring into this, because I have some level of baseball knowledge, is I'm gonna bring up a couple of points here when it comes to the steroid era. So Mike Piazza was a catcher, and if you know anything about the catcher position in baseball, catchers usually don't last too long. They're like the running backs of baseball because of the amount of crouching that they do. Their knees go bad early. It's just a thing that if you're not going to be dominant past the age of 31, 32. Mike Piazza was dominant almost to 40. He actually played longer than a whole lot of catchers. And he had been long suspected of using PEDs, kind of, I'm saying long suspected, but it was quietly within the baseball community. And he's a guy who, the reason why catchers don't put up the hitting numbers that other positions put up is because their legs are shot. We talked about leg kicks in the UFC. You need your legs. Basketball, your legs get tired, your shot goes off because now your leaping is inconsistent on your jumper. Like, legs control everything. This man was still able to average 30 home runs at the catcher position and still keep his batting averages up, and people kind of suspect it, Now, in 2013, he did an autobiography, and he admitted using PEDs. Mike Piazza was inducted into the Hall of Fame after that in 2016. So my problem with baseball, Mark, because I agree with everything that you said, all of your sentiments. I hate that about Barry Bonds and some of the stuff. These guys need to be kept out 1,000%. And I don't like that everybody gets in basketball. You know what I mean? I feel you. Now, with that said, you can't make this exception for somebody like Mike Piazza, right? And then you're looking at other players and you're like, you're not getting in. You're not getting in at all. And then, so some people that admit to PED use are going to get in. Some of them aren't. And then you got a guy like Curt Schilling, excuse me. Curt Schilling is a guy who, although he's never won a Cy Young award, he's a guy who has the numbers to get in. Because of the Cy Young, I understand why people would put other pitchers in front of him. But he eventually should have gotten in at some point. Even this year, they're saying that he didn't get in, and I looked at the numbers. You need 75% of the vote to get in. He got 71. A lot of these writers are keeping him out because of his political stances and the things that he said on Twitter and social media when it comes to being a far right-wing guy.
Right.
And basically, but before social media existed and he was doing and being very outspoken about some of these things, it was known that in a locker room that he had these opinions. So you have a guy who has the personality of a Barry Bonds, who's just not a likable guy. He did not do any steroids, but he's not a likable guy, and they don't like his political views, and they're keeping him out, Mark, because of this. And this is my problem with baseball. That's why I think there's a problem with this. This is why I think it's deliberate, Mark, because they've shown me in the past that if they like you, it doesn't matter what you did. They'll find a way they'll find a path for you to get in. It might not be first ballot, but they'll find a path for you to get in. You know what I mean? And then if they don't like you, it doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. This guy didn't even use PEDs, and he stayed consistently a top pitcher in the league throughout his entire career. And they're just like, we don't care. So that's where my issue stems from with this. And that's why maybe I'm reading too much into it and saying that it's like a deliberate thing to keep out the steroid guys and the guys that they don't care about. And that's what I mean by keeping the politics out of baseball. I want to be very clear. If they're cheating straight up, I don't think they belong. It's a gray area with Barry Bonds because they never really caught him red-handed. But if they want to keep him out, I understand. But where my problem comes is when you let somebody else in that has done PEDs. Either we're not letting these guys in or we're not. Or, I mean, either we're letting them in or we're not. And when you start to cherry pick, it starts to show the bias within the baseball community.
Right.
So that's my problem. It's like, I don't get it wrong. I want it to be unbiased, but I also want these PED guys out.
Right.
So yes, you made some really good points, though, Mark. It really is a sad thing that is like the Michael Jordan moment in baseball is erased by a guy who was blatantly cheating. You know what I'm saying? To surpass that record.
Yeah. So, Tyrone, do you have any thoughts before I give my follow-up thoughts?
No, you guys covered it.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, man, I agree with you about it should be unbiased, that either we're not letting PED guys in, or we're letting all PED guys in. Cherry picking PED guys is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would even be fine if you just say, if you admitted it, you could get in later. Like, they're not even.
That's because that was going to be my point as well. Is that
my bad.
because I was going to follow up and say that with some of the guys that have admitted it, like they admitted like, well, I did it this year, and like they come on trial for it. Now the Mike Piazza thing is crazy, but like I'm talking about like as far as Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, or more so in particular Alex Rodriguez, who comes up next year for Hall of Fame. Alex Rodriguez, like, I feel as though Alex Rodriguez was a person that, like, he admitted it. He took his, like, you know what I mean? He took his lashings and stuff like that. Now, if you say, like, look, you're not, like, you're not able to get into the hall until set amount of time or whatever, like, okay, like, I get it. I would understand that, but I still lean more so on the side of none of you guys get in. But if you want to say like guys that like if you want to offer the redemption route, I'm okay with you offering the redemption route. But I am more so on the side of if you cheated in the way, and that's how you got in, like, obviously that's how you got in the Hall of Fame. Be like, you know, you're out here letting, no, you don't deserve to be in the hall, dog. Like that is the asterisk. Like when somebody looks at Barry Bonds, they like, well, hold up, he hit 762 home runs. Like, because in 20, 30 years from now, like, let's say he don't get in, and if someone's like, well, why he hit 762 home runs and he's not in the hall? Like, it needs to be known he's not in the hall because he cheated. Because if you put him in a hall, then like you're like that portion, that knowledge of what he did in the cheating gets erased. Like,
how come so in fighting, if you have a fight, like, you know, with the John Jones, it was discovered he was on PEDs, it becomes a no contest. How come in other sports when this happens they don't just get rid of that? Like that game doesn't exist anymore.
I'll explain that one. Well, yeah, in other sports, I think the bigger issue is it's a team sport. The team sports is where they don't just throw it out. And
but that would also make you not want to do it because now you're affecting everybody else.
Yes, but I also feel like,
and they could also throw out your personal stats and just
yeah. But I think it's also a unsaid, unwritten thing that the people that are judging these things and seeing these guys and catching them taking it, I think it's a situation to where in those sports they understand. There's like a quiet understanding of everybody's doing it. and they're okay with it, but they can't come out and say that they're okay with it, man. See, baseball is a situation to where they don't care if it's a team sport. They don't care about none of that shit because they're so deep rooted in their tradition, and they're so deep rooted when it comes to the respect for the game that that's such a high priority for them as a sport and as an organization that's why it gets highlighted there. Like football, everything that deals with football is about it's a gladiator sport. You know what I'm saying? It's about who's tougher. It's about who's meaner. It's about who's better. They don't care about the integrity of the game isn't at the forefront. So the same reason as to why they won't negate a win because of something like that is the same reason why people get to keep their wins when there's a Spygate going on. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just not at the forefront of the sport. And in basketball, it's one of those things where it just rarely happens. And if you know anything about basketball, they suspend the hell out of people for PEDs in basketball. And then once you get suspended a couple times, you become a pariah, and teams won't even work you out because of it. You know what I'm saying? So even though they're not as, I don't think they're as serious with it as baseball, they still are serious enough for me to respect it, because as a collective, even if they're not saying it, they start blackballing these players that get that pop positive for PEDs in basketball.
Right. Well, because yeah, I was just gonna say they could always erase. Like, I think that would be the biggest. I think that would be the biggest deterrent ever if they erased Barry Bonds's his years from his stat sheet. Then that would be a big deal. But I think, like, you can't, unless you can't really prove like how long some of these guys have been doing it. Like, when you find out they've been doing it, like, it's like, okay, well, how far back do we erase their entire career? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how far back do we go? So, like, when it comes to a fighter, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know you did it this fight, so now this fight is a no contest. You know what I'm saying? Like, but when it comes to baseball, like, I catch you today, but you could have been doing this shit for months. Like, you know what I mean? Or you could have been doing this shit for years. So
yeah, it is more clear cut in fighting. Yeah, but I still feel you. Regardless, team sport, the whole team pays for it. I thought that was the way it was handled, Mark. I don't know. It's like it gets handled that way at the lower levels because damn sure I don't know how many extracurricular activities I had to engage in football because somebody else on the football team messed up. You know what I mean? Like they definitely do it at the lower levels, but in NFL, I think there's just way too much money in the type of owners that the NFL has. They really don't care about anything else but that. So they're willing to let people die from concussions and shit. So, like, we just talk about a different breed.
right. Okay. So getting out of baseball, and I want to start things off in basketball. That's saying congratulations and blessings to Karis LeVert. And Karis LeVert successfully came out of surgery. They found cancer in his kidneys when doing the physical from his from the trade that involved Kyrie Irving. I mean, not involved James Harden, excuse me. The four-way trade that involved James Harden that sent Karis LeVert to the Pacers.
Yes.
They did the physical and found a mass on his kidney, and so they were able to go in, remove the mass. They said they believe that they got it all. So congratulations to him. And from all of us right here at the Eye Test, we are all fathers of daughters. And I want to say rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Today marks the 1-year anniversary of the death of Kobe Bryant. I'm going to say, for me, having a small daughter who wasn't even one yet this time last year, and
knowing that Kobe Bryant passed with his daughter, I was never a fan of Kobe Bryant, but in that moment, like that crushed me, and that was a very big deal for me. Like, I remember that whole day. I just held my daughter tight. Um, so I just wanted to say, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, and make sure that I acknowledged him. You guys?
Um, yeah, the Kobe thing. I feel you. I think parents, men and women alike. I think the men felt it a little bit differently, especially the ones that have daughters. Man, it was kind of crushing, like you said. Same thing. Wasn't exactly a huge fan of Kobe, but I respected him on and off the court, and man, yeah, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant and his daughter. And I I refrained from making posts today specifically because Kobe's wife Vanessa asked the media to just give her piece and not make a big deal about it. So I mean, I have my thoughts about the media coverage of everything. I understand they have a job to do, but I feel like they should have respected her wishes to some degree. But I get it. Everybody's got a job, and but yeah, that's all I got to say about the Kobe thing, man. And Karis LeVert, just to say that, yeah, like it's crazy, man. It's the same thing that I don't know if you remember Eddie Curry. Eddie Curry, they found out he had his heart condition when he went through a physical for the New York Knicks. So yeah, man. This happens sometimes, very rarely though, but it definitely a blessing in disguise getting traded.
All right, and Tyrone, anything to say about the passing of or the 1 year anniversary of Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, man. When the whole thing happened, it was like I didn't believe it. It was unreal. Like I have never been like a real basketball fan, but everybody know who Kobe was. But where it hit me the most is that the relationship he had with his oldest daughter is kind of the same relationship I have with my oldest daughter, and they look strikingly similar, in features and stuff. So I know how he was feeling, in that helicopter personally, because that's how I would have felt with your oldest daughter, especially a relationship that they had. So yeah, it hit me pretty hard for that reason. And I saw it and I thought about it. I didn't really say it, I didn't vocalize it. And then, when it happened, I started getting a lot of people contacting me and saying, first thing I thought about when that happened was you and, you and Melissa. So it drove the nail a little bit deeper for me. And it made me a little bit closer with my daughter, knowing that not every day is promised. You could be doing something routine, like he was taking his daughter to a basketball game. He trained her and stuff like that in basketball, coached her. And that's what I do with my daughter with her boxing. It's just a routine thing. We get in the car every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we go to practice or we do our thing, and something tragic can happen, so we need to count our blessings and keep our loved ones close and don't take them for granted every day, So, yeah, waking up, I didn't really keep track of the days, but waking up and getting on social media, seeing the pictures out there, is just a general reminder not to let you don't forget, keep the people you love close and appreciate them every day. So it's tragic that happened, but yeah, so that's it.
Just one correction. Gigi was his second oldest. His oldest is Natalia.
Oh, okay, my bad.
No, you're good. Just want to make sure the correct information was out there for people out there. So, but Gigi was his twin, and which does very much remind me of the relationship that you and your daughter have. And honestly, it's the relationship that I only hope and try to have with my daughter. So
yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of Karis LeVert, in that trade, Kyrie Irving has returned to the team since the last time we talked to you guys, and so far the worries that me and Shawn has expressed in the past are rearing their ugly head. This does not look like this could possibly win the championship. I mean, we never believed it could win a championship in the first place, but this just reaffirms it. The defense on this team is a very huge issue, and we are seeing the disappearance of James Harden, where if Kyrie's thriving, he's not able to. So, and if Kyrie's taking a bunch of shots, he's not able to. James Harden's not able to get going. So, first game that happened was against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That game went into double overtime, in which you can make the excuse for these guys that Sexton just went dummy and won the game out, because in that particular game, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, James Harden combined for 96 points. But they combined for 96 points in double overtime. That's very important to note, because
Yes.
I would expect them to combine for 96 points in regulation. Like,
Yeah.
It shouldn't take double OT for these three guys if they were working in sync and it was working properly. It shouldn't take that much for these guys to combine for that point total. And the fact that Carl Sexton was able to go dummy like that and able to beat you guys shows like your defense is lacking. And even if you want to talk about him going dummy in game one, what about game two? In game two, that wasn't the case, but we did see the disappearance of James Harden in game two. And we saw when they played against the Miami Heat, who were without Jimmy Butler and without Tyler Hero, somehow you only win that game by a point total of 4. It was 28 to 25 or something like
What,
that.
come on, 128, 125?
Yeah, so you only won that game by a point total of 3, and Bam Adebayo went for 40. So this shows that you're going to have a problem with big men, and you're going to have to see if Joel Embiid is healthy, you're going to have to see him in the playoffs. How you going to, and like Joel Embiid is playing MVP basketball right now. If he maintains that level of play, you're talking about Joel Embiid putting up 60 on you on a nightly basis in the playoffs. Like, that's like, what are you going to do about that? So, so far, this isn't looking good. Now, I will express the caveat that this is 4 games. This is early. They have time. But I will also say that I'm not going to outright condemn what's going on so far, but I will say this is indicative of the concerns that we've previously discussed. Shawn?
Excuse me. Yeah, so what I'll say is that first game back, in their defense, the Cavs, I believe, were ranked second defensively. I believe that's partially because of pacing and the way that they play on offense, but also they do have a pretty good defense. So like they were ranked number 2 in defense coming into that game versus the Nets. With that said, if you watch the Cavs play this year, they keep a lot of games close. Now, but this is supposed to be the team that can't be stopped by anybody. So although I'm throwing that out there, they're supposed to most definitely overcome. Mark, their shooting percentages were good. So I understand
because it wasn't good in this last one.
I'm saying overall as a whole in that first Nets game.
Okay, in the first game.
Okay. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. The shooting percentages were good overall. Now down the stretch, that faded a little bit. But my biggest takeaway from that was, my biggest takeaway from all of this was I honestly thought that the biggest issue that they were going to have, even with the losses that they had from the trade, I still felt like their biggest issue was going to be chemistry on offense. And as of right now, that's secondary. That's secondary to their issue defensively, because I don't care how good Colin Sexton is. His total points was not my concern. 42 points, I'm not concerned about the 42 points. It was a double OT game, like you said. What I am concerned about is 22 of them coming in both of the overtimes.
Right.
What I am concerned about is the Cleveland Cavaliers scoring 36 in 2 overtimes. Like, that is a problem. No one player should be scoring 22 points on you. And what I thought it was indicative of is a coach that doesn't know what he's doing, as well as players that, and I'm not going to say that they play bad defense on Colin, because in those spans that I watched in OT, Colin was just making shots. So, but the fact that they were in overtime, that might have something to do with their bad defense throughout the game, because they were, they were giving up a lot of points to Jared Allen and Andre Drummond. And this is, and once I said, they combined for 35 points over the course of the game against whoever was playing center, Jeff Green, most of the game, and a little bit of DeAndre Jordan. But they scored 35, and that combined 35 from 2 guys that shouldn't be getting those points, that's a problem. So you go to the next game, and it's once again, that game, they didn't have Harden, and we got to see Kyrie and KD, and once again, they weren't able to score enough points and stop Cleveland enough. They lost that game by 12 points. They scored 113, Mark. So they were held in check to some degree, and then they gave up another 120. So that's another problem. Okay, you fast forward to the Miami game, and once again, you got Bam going off. So they have no defense against big guys. 0. Okay. A matter of effort will determine how well they do against wing players. But against centers, I don't know, because you're not switching unless you're switching KD to guard dominant centers in the East, then I don't know what they're planning on doing. Like, but that's what I'm saying. That's not an effort thing. Jeff Green cannot play center. He is a guy who was used to guarding wing players his entire career. You can't now ask him to guard centers. It's clearly not working. So on top of them not being able to guard centers, right now, these last 2 games that they've won, because they won 2 against the Heat, they've been getting stops where they need them, Mark. And they've been making plays offensively where they need them towards in the closing stretch of these games. That's the way they've been winning. I mean, the margin of victory was a little bit more in their recent victory. They won by 13. It was 98-85. And like you said, considering the pieces that Miami's missing, that doesn't make me feel good. I don't want to see the Nets score at 98 points, because I don't feel like they can hold anybody to 85 on a consistent basis. Like, I don't even know if they're gonna hold anybody to 85 again for the rest of the year, Mark. So, like I said, they have to figure out, like, right now, it's great that you can get stops when you need to in the end of the games. It's great that you can make those plays offensively at the end of games. But what's going to determine whether or not they're going to be successful in the playoffs is whether or not they can make those stops during the game, not just in the closing moments. So, but you know how this goes. I feel like they need to get some defensive players on this team, because I understand Kyrie came out and said, "Hey, we gotta be defensive minded. We gotta be more uh, we have to have defense in mind when we come in to do this thing. And if you're going to rely on your superstars to carry that weight, then Mark, we all know that takes away from you offensively. It's not a surprise to me that in the Miami game, the second one, they hold them to 85, but they score 98. And if you look at the stat, if you look at the box score, everybody shot bad on both teams. So this is the problem you're going to run into. You do not want your superstars expending all that energy on defense.
Yeah. You're right. Tyrone, I know you're not a big basketball guy, but I will ask you, in seeing this, in seeing what's happening, would you say that this is just something that they need time to gel with, or this is indicative of a bigger problem?
It probably just takes some time to figure it all out, team dynamics of it. And they may have to bring in some different resources to handle the big guys like you were talking about, since they have no defense for it. That would probably take a lot of pressure off of the other players to make those passes, make those plays they need in order to win the game. But I heard you say earlier on, you were saying they were like in double overtime and these guys are scoring a combined, score. That's not good at all. Need to figure out the issue of that. Like, what's going on there? Why is that happening?
Yeah. One guy should not put 22 up on you in 2 overtimes. Overtime's only 5 minutes. He scored 50. Yeah. Colin Sexton scored 15 points in the second overtime. The Cavs as a team scored like 25 points or something ridiculous like that in the second overtime. That's crazy. It was ridiculous. It was like, they lit up the scoreboard. So
and I think in a scenario of you scoring 96 in double OT, like when you have Kevin Durant who seems to show no sign of anything wrong after surgery, seems like the same player, and then you're Kyrie and he's James Harden, like you guys are supposed to be some of the most prolific scorers in the game. You have to find a way to be better in sync than 96 points in double OT. Like,
right.
So,
if that's your game plan, if your game plan is to just be dominant at those 3 positions and win games that way, because that seems to be their game plan, then you're going to need more than 96 in 2 overtimes.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, because clearly you don't have offense. I mean, you don't have defense. So, yeah, you guys need to get to, like, y'all need to figure out a way. If y'all going to be dominant, then obviously your dominance is going to have to come offensively. And the only way that happens is if y'all are scoring the lights out every single game. So, and so far you guys are showing the inability to do that. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of basketball. There's some points that I would like to make later about Ben Simmons and stuff like that, but that we could save that for another day. Let's get into football from this weekend. Okay. So, Shawn, did you have a good weekend of football?
Yeah, I did have a good weekend. One of my picks didn't make it, but that was fine. I enjoyed the hell out of the games, Mark. That's what I will say. You know what I'm saying? The games were definitely really good games to watch. I enjoyed doing the live commentary, and I enjoyed having the comment, responding to people in the chat and all that stuff. I had fun just doing commentary on the game and breaking down what we were seeing as it was happening in real time.
Yeah. I feel as though our commentary this time was a lot better. It was a lot more focused. We kept it to the game. And I feel as though that's something that we're going to just get better at as we keep going and keep doing this. Unfortunately, there's no more games left in football, but maybe we could do it for like the major big time games,
in other sports. So like basketball. But anyway, with that though, both my picks made it. So we're just going to keep it to that. And
Hey, you know what? Be proud of yourself, man. That's cool, man. Like I'm not even mad about it, to be honest.
I'm gonna just be honest and say both of my picks for the Super Bowl when we made our predictions weeks ago, both of my picks made it.
Yeah, prior to the playoffs started. Yes.
So, but yeah, man, these were excellent games to watch, man. So let's start off with Green Bay, Tampa Bay. All right. I'm gonna go first this time. I'm not gonna put the pressure on you. I'm gonna go ahead and go first. So, my first takeaway from this game was Tom Brady put on his best Jameis Winston impression.
Yes.
Tom Brady went out there and cosplayed like he was Jameis Winston, and everybody praised him for it. And
crazy how that works.
And I found that to be amazing. Shame on all of you out there for the GOAT. Meanwhile, what was it, 252 or something like that? Somewhere around there. 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Last time I checked, Jameis Winston does that. Like, he could have gave you those numbers.
Yes, absolutely. He probably would have had 400 yards if he gave you those numbers.
So
yeah,
I only say that to say Tom Brady had little to do with that win. Like, you could have inserted Jameis Winston and still got the same result from that game. And that has been proven. So now don't nobody jump out the window and say, well, Tom Brady's better than Jameis Winston, blah, blah, blah. I know that shit. I'm talking about this particular game. Tom Brady could have gave you the same result Jameis Winston did. So how about you slow down on your praise of this is why he's the GOAT. Meanwhile,
this is definitely not why he's the GOAT.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Nothing about that game showed why he was the GOAT. All that game showed was that he's going to an NFC championship, and that's something no one's done before. But Robert Ory has been to more championships than Jordan, and Robert Ory wasn't the biggest factor as to why they were going to those championships. And I'm just saying, Tom Brady in this instance, this is not an indication of him being the GOAT. Shawn, you could go ahead and give your point about this game.
Man. So there's something that I wanted to bring up here just because I just want to quiet some of the overreaction to the game and the results of the game. A lot of stuff happened here. Tom Brady, we already know Tom Brady threw 3 picks. We know that happened. We know that, Aaron Rodgers whined like a little bitch after the game. We know that happened. We know that Aaron Rodgers, I had to throw that in there. We know that Aaron Rodgers took some sacks that he shouldn't have. We know that the play calling at the end of the game from Matt LaFleur by not going for it may have been something that I did not like, and it may have very well cost him the game.
No. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Matt LaFleur's decision to not go for it was mathematically incorrect.
It was bad.
It's more than bad. It was mathematically incorrect. Like, we're talking about simple math of this 3-point does not do anything. It literally does nothing for you.
Because you still need a touchdown.
You still need a touchdown. You still need
to get a stop. You still need to get the ball back. Like that. You really have faith in your defense. You know what? Let me get into that. Let me get into that. Since I was gonna gloss over that, not gloss over. I was gonna skip by, but let's get into that, man. Worst thing that happens. You give the ball up. Tampa has it on the 7-yard line.
Yes.
You have them as a defensive coordinator. That is a way better scenario, especially with a non-mobile quarterback. Like, I know Todd Bowles wishes he had the opportunity to send his defense at Tom Brady backed up in that end zone. You know, considering the amount of times that they were able to get to him during the game. Like, I know that Todd Bowles wanted that opportunity to really basically send the house at him, backed up on the goal line. It was an optimal situation. Like, even if you're looking at it from a defensive standpoint, Mark, your best bet of stopping them defensively was having them backed up on the goal line. So it really limits what they can do play calling wise, and that's exactly what you wanted in that situation. So I personally think that it was horrendous. It's one of the worst calls I've seen in a very long time, Mark. But what I wanted to focus on is Aaron Rodgers went 33 for 48, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and we already know what Brady's stats were. Okay, now 2 things. It looks like, if you look at it on paper, it looks like Aaron Rodgers outplayed Brady. I think they both underperform. That doesn't help when you talk about interceptions and touchdowns, because everybody brags about Aaron Rodgers' interception to touchdown interception ratio. He took 5 sacks, Mark. And I recall 3 of them being in very bad spots. You know what I mean? So these are the moments when you take a sack on 3rd down, it's a problem. You take a sack on 2nd down, putting yourself in a 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 15 situation, that's a bad problem. These are the spots where Aaron Rodgers was getting sacked. This is the reason why they weren't. These are part of the reasons why they weren't able to capitalize on the 3 interceptions that Tom Brady threw. So Aaron Rodgers played bad. Tom Brady played bad. The difference is Tom Brady made the plays in the spots where he needed to win the game based on how the game flow was going. But that's where the credit for Tom Brady stops for me. But of course, now Mark, I have a question for you. Since when has beating Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs been a mark of anything? This is what he does. This is what he does, man. And to be honest with you, Mark, this is probably one of the closest games that Aaron Rodgers has lost. And this is one of the lowest scoring games that he's had. So, you're lucky that you ran into Aaron Rodgers with a 26-point performance. Usually he's losing in a 35-point performance, or he's getting blown out. Y'all couldn't blow him out, and he only put up 26. You know what? I'm not here to judge, Mark, but all in all, Tom Brady fans, whoever's out there, slow your roll. This performance should not bolster what you think of him as being the greatest of all time. This should be more of an indictment on him as far as him being a guy who isn't looking the same as he once used to. So, because some of these passes were bad, whether they got picked off or not. So that's all I got for this game, man. I feel like I talk more about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers than anything, but I feel like a big decisive thing, the decisive difference was, I feel like I really loved the play calling of Tampa Bay over the defensive play calling of Tampa Bay over the defensive play calling of Green Bay, and I felt like it showed.
Well, I was going to say, that was a big takeaway from the game, was the fact that was the quarterback play in this game.
I feel like they both kind of
because here's the thing. Green Bay, I had to gather my thought for a second. Green Bay was 2 for 4 in the red zone. And that 2 was field goals.
So to the game.
So Aaron Rodgers was 0 for 4 in the red zone. That's what made him terrible in this game.
Yeah.
Because he scored 3 touchdowns. That's great, but but those were like long touchdowns. But in the 4 attempts within the red zone, you've come up short.
Somewhere where he's been converting all year long, Mark.
Right. And we've watched you throw errant passes in the red zone in this game. We watched you. Now you spoke to Aaron Rodgers being a baby, and hey,
yeah.
Aaron, how about you take some accountability, brother? Because you sitting there upset that y'all kicked the field goal. You wouldn't have needed to kick that field goal had you ran the ball on 3rd down, like because from what we saw, the entire right field was open and you didn't run.
Well, this is, and one thing I want to point out, because some people will say he wouldn't have made it because of the players were in the field in the position that they're in. They would have saw him. I don't care. I don't care if he gets 4 yards there. If he gets 4 yards, you're now 4th and goal. You were in 4 down territory, Mark, and he played that. He made that play as if he was playing for 3 downs and not 4. So it sounds like you and the coach both have the same mentality. So don't get mad at him for having a 3 down mentality when clearly you didn't have a 4 down mentality. You should have ran the ball, take whatever you could have gotten, and hey, the shit ain't here. Fine, I'm gonna take off and I'm gonna get what I can get. You know why? Because it's 4 down territory. We should be going for it. Out of all the times that I've seen quarterbacks wave somebody off, Mark, he can say whatever the hell he wants. He's Aaron Rodgers. This is the NFC Championship game. He should have waved that shit off and said, we're going for it, Mark. I don't care, man. Mark, I should have been seeing, if he was going to get overruled in that shit, I should have been seeing him on the sideline throwing a temper tantrum, Mark. That's what we should have seen.
Yeah.
He should have been.
He should have waved him off like we're staying on the field.
Yeah. Like this is.
Got off the field.
You're Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to hear that. He came in there with the 3 down mentality as well, but he just don't want to. He just don't want to admit it. See, this is one of the reasons why I don't like this guy. But another part for the course behavior for Aaron Rodgers. People like to talk about Cam Newton having a certain attitude when he's winning and then a certain attitude when he's losing. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers' attitude, because he all of a sudden has an attitude problem when he's losing. So,
yeah. All right. I would have to agree with you there, dog.
Yeah, I'm trying not to ride out on this motherfucker, Mark. I'm trying. I'm trying, man.
Hey, it's all right though, man. It's all right. So with that game being locked in key, let's talk about the Chiefs Bills. Now, Tyrone, I don't know if you happen to see any highlights from this game or not, but Josh Allen was acting like a petulant child throughout the game, and somehow this didn't get brought up by any media pundits at all. I mean, there's no need to really talk about the game outside of that because the Chiefs did exactly what they were supposed to do, which was beat the shit out of the Bills. I had 2 takeaways from this. The defensive coordinator for the Chiefs and the head coach, Shawn McDermott, are both from the Jim Johnson School of Football. They both are from his tree within the Eagles. So Shawn McDermott, so both of these guys are Andy Reid tree guys, but particularly Jim Johnson's defense within the Andy Reid tree.
So they're defensive guys.
Yes.
They come from the same. They learned from the same guy.
Yeah, and it seems like only one of them was paying attention in class, because the Chiefs defense looked like a Jim Johnson's defense. Lots of blitzes, ball hawking, swarming around the ball, and you see safety blitzes. You see 3-man blitzes, like they're sending guys. And Shawn McDermott's defense, not so much. You see 1 or 2 guys here and there. It just
that was my biggest takeaway, was that only one guy looked like he ever paid attention in class. The other guy looked like he just showed up. So,
Yeah.
And the second biggest takeaway was I watched Josh Allen act like a child, in taking his sacks and in his reactions. And it came to a head where he threw the ball at it after taking a sack. He threw the ball at the head of a defensive player. Now, I'm not going to play it up like he threw the ball hard, but he did throw the ball at, like, he tossed it at the head of a defensive player.
No, he threw it in a manner not in which to hurt him,
Right.
but in which to piss him the fuck off.
Exactly.
Which it worked.
Yeah, so when
Yeah.
the guy gets up and gets in his face, Josh Allen wants to act like he's innocent and shit. And then this melee kind of happens, and somehow Josh Allen isn't held accountable for his actions, and they call offsetting penalties, even though he initiated all actions. So, I guess my question to you guys is, had that been a black quarterback or black players involved, what do you think they would have said about these actions? I'll start with you, Tyrone.
It's been a lot of instances where black players have done things. I don't think they would have said much. To tell you the truth, I've seen some crazy things happen out there. What happened? Somebody took a helmet off or something like that? Was that was a while ago?
No, that was last year.
That was last year.
Yep.
It was last year where what's his name? God dang it.
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett ripped off the helmet of Mason Rudolph. But he ripped off the helmet. That was another example of Mason Rudolph started that fight after he took a sack. Another incident of a guy acting like a little child. He grabs the helmet. He grabs the face mask of Myles Garrett and starts shaking it. And then Myles Garrett gets upset and he tries to kick him in the nuts. And Myles Garrett rips his helmet off his head. And then afterwards, Mason Rudolph, with his helmet ripped off and his teammates holding him back, he went to attack Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, still having the helmet in his hand, hit him with the helmet. But none of it would have happened had Mason Rudolph never went to attack him.
Right.
You got sacked, bro. That's part of the game, man.
Right. So I don't know if the color would have mattered, because I've also seen where a dude act like he snatched the dude's mouthpiece off his helmet.
No, he snatched. If you're talking, Aqib Talib has been famous for snatching people's chains. If he sees
that's what it looked like a chain. Yeah.
If he sees your chains dangling, he's gonna snatch it. And
so
now that
I don't know.
true. They don't do anything when Aqib Talib does that.
Well, that's.
And then, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's for a different reason, but
right.
but to me, I guess for me, man, I'll just go ahead and jump into this, man. There's been a lot of instances where, I'm not even gonna. You know what? I will talk about black players in general. There's a lot of instances where black players are considered to be immature, emotionally or maturity-wise. It's just immature. And whenever a situation like this were to happen, they would highlight it and be like, see, this is what we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's never hey, it was a high emotion situation. It's never hey, they're just fully invested emotionally. It's always an immaturity thing. Sometimes it's true. You know, other times it might be questionable, but either way, it doesn't matter. They jump to it regardless, right? They jump to that conclusion regardless. This is a situation to where I still recall the Super Bowl happening and Cam Newton not diving on that football,
right,
on the fumble. He got slaughtered got called a bad teammate, got told that he was selfish. That's the reason why he didn't dive on the ball. Like, there's a lot of things that got said about Cam Newton. I agreed with some of them, but a lot of the thing is, it doesn't matter whether I agreed or not. It doesn't matter if they were true or not. They didn't care whether it was true or not. They just jumped straight to it. That's exactly where they went with it. You know what I mean? And in a situation like this, why isn't this guy being called a bad teammate? Why isn't this guy being called immature? Why isn't he being called whatever you want to call it? Because he was an instigator. He was acting like a baby. You know what I'm saying? This is a penalty that, yeah, I get it. It's towards the end of the game, but Mark, we said that they were in a situation where, I mean, yes, and maybe the game was a little bit out of hand, but you could tell that they were still trying to play. And this guy's throwing footballs at people. You know what I'm saying? Why? Like, that's a play that is bad for your team. You're gonna get penalized, right? You lose yardage for that. Mm-hmm. Let's say that you get suspended for it. Now they get to start next season without you, without the starting quarterback. You're supposed to be a leader in a locker room, right? You're supposed to be the one person that can't do dumb things. So I just find it interesting that nobody has brought this up about his maturity level. And yes, Mark, I would like to believe that, you know, had it been, I'm not even going to say just, you know, I'm not just going to say if it was a young quarterback, you know, a younger black quarterback, because this is a young white quarterback. If it was a young black quarterback, they would have said something. I don't care how squeaky clean he would have been. People had a lot to say about RG3 at times, and he was the squeakiest, cleanest person I've ever seen as far as a black quarterback goes, you know, outside of Russell Wilson. Right. And they had a lot to say about him when they felt like he wasn't doing what people wanted him to do. So they called him selfish. They called him all kinds of names too. So I just don't understand where I've seen it go one way. Like, I'm a type of person that give him the benefit of the doubt, you know what I'm saying, until you show me something different. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for these scenarios because I'm like, okay, so it's the black players doing this, a black player doing that. But now you got two instances, Mark, where it's a young white player doing these two things and nobody's saying anything about it. Nobody said anything about Mason Rudolph being immature. Nobody said anything about Josh Allen being immature. And Mark, what I have to say about that in conclusion is the NFL still, although the NFL has been moving in the right direction when it comes to these sort of things and the stigmas that have existed in the past, I feel like this is just more proof that there's still more work to do within the NFL and in the media coverage of the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would have to agree with you wholeheartedly, but these are the unfortunate things that happen in the NFL, and this is why, like, people, this is why I would say incidents like this is the reason why other black people or other people of color or fans of color don't want to hold black players accountable because there is no accountability on the other side at times. So the fan of color kind of feels like, why should I say tis to this guy when that's not happening over there, and like it's such a spotlight on players of color, but no spotlight given when you have players like Mason Rudolph and Josh Allen acting out in the ways that they do.
Yeah, I would say this: the last white quarterback that I seen get called immature was Ryan Leaf, and he was being outrageous.
Right, and like for instance, like Tom Brady. Here's an excellent example. Tom Brady is kind of a bad teammate. Tom Brady has been known to cuss his players out. He's been known to flip out, do all types of wild shit if things aren't going his way. I will tell you this. If McCole Hartman was a player on Tom Brady's team,
Tom Brady would not talk to McCole Hardman after he did what he did after fumbling a kick return. Oh no, a punt return the way McCole Hardman did. He would not
He
talk
would
to
have
him.
made eye contact on the bench. He wouldn't have. And even if he would have, if he did speak to him, it would have been a berating.
Right. Now, meanwhile, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm going to let you know right now, I am not that level of a high character guy to where I would have been able to do what Patrick Mahomes did. But in this particular case, after McCole Hardman fumbled the ball and everything, Travis Kelce said, "Look, it's all right, man. Blah blah blah. We're going to get it back." Now, McCole Hardman clearly defeated. He went over, slammed his helmet down, sat down, put his jacket over his head. Patrick Mahomes made sure to go to his guy and was like, "Look, no, I need you in this game. I need you here. We've been here before. It's okay."
And then he got the first play of the next possession.
Yeah, yo, he said you're going to make a play. Don't worry about it. You're going to make a play. We've been here before. Like, high character, like Patrick Mahomes is a high character guy. Like, you know what I mean? And he made sure to keep his guy in the game. And so this is just, I mean, I'm just going to keep throwing my jabs and throwing my punches where I can. But these are the things that I be talking about when y'all idiots out there be like Tom Brady this and that. Like, you're watching a high character guy do it the right way, but you're still pushing up Tom Brady. Like,
hey, Mark, I got a question, man. Why Tom Brady won't shake Nick Foles' hand whenever he loses to him?
Because he's a baby.
I'm just trying to figure this out, man.
No,
One time, the first time it happened, they try to make excuses, and they're like, "Oh, well, sometimes it doesn't." He was looking for it, but he couldn't find him, and then he lost to him against the Bears, and all of a sudden he couldn't find him again. Mark, I find that very interesting.
Yeah, well, he has a history of doing that. He has a history of doing that. But like when Tom Brady is cussing everybody out on the sideline, it's he's intense. He wants to win. He has the drive. He has the will. But when Dez Bryant is just yelling on the sideline like, "Yo, we're awesome. Like, we can do this, blah, blah, blah." Now you assume that he's cussing people out. And but the audio shows that no, he wasn't cussing anybody out. He was saying, "You're great, I'm great, this, that, and third. We can make this happen." Like, so.
Yeah, and then nobody retracts the statements.
Nobody retracts their statement at all. They just leave it out there and let it be.
And my last point to the shaking hands thing, a lot of y'all are still calling Isaiah Thomas a hater for not shaking Michael Jordan's hand, especially after watching the Last Dance documentary. I don't want to see none of y'all that feel that way about Isaiah Thomas dismissing Tom Brady not shaking hands. Hey, if it's a big deal, it's a big deal. All right, don't make it a big deal for some people and then not make it a big deal for another person only because you like the person that it's happening to, or you like the person that it's happening to, so you think it's horrible. But then the person that you like that's doing it, it's like, well, I like the person that's doing it, so it's not that big of a deal. Like, nah, man.
Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and that's how it should be all the way around. But yeah, man. The only other takeaways I have from from that particular game was Chiefs defense has quietly been a problem for teams all year, and it looks like that's going to be one of the things going forward. I'm gonna let you know right now. I want to save our Super Bowl conversation for next week.
Yes, and I was gonna say I want to too, man. We got the down week.
Yeah, so we'll save our Super Bowl conversation for next week. But in this particular game, man, you gotta love what the defense did against the Bills. I mean, for some of us, like myself and you, this was expected. Like what the Chiefs did was absolutely expected. I made an analogy earlier. I said, because everybody was out there saying, well, the Chiefs defense don't look the same way that they did last year, and they're not so they were doubting, I mean, not the Chiefs defense, the Chiefs offense. So they were doubting what the Chiefs could do. Lo and behold, this weekend comes and the Chiefs do exactly what they were capable of. And I made the analogy, and I said it to Shawn, was just because you see a Lamborghini every day and you see it doing, like, you've seen it go fast before. You've seen what it could do. But now all you do is see it drive on the city streets doing 55. Doesn't mean that it stopped being a fast car.
Yeah.
The Lamborghini didn't stop being a fast car because you see it do 55 every day. It's only doing 55 because that's all that's necessary to get where it's going.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't be surprised when the Lamborghini gets up there and does 120 and, like, you like, oh shit. Like, no, it's like, it's still a Lamborghini, dog. Nothing changed. So, and shame on all of you out there for thinking that something has changed with this car, even though you see that it still has all the same parts and none of them has been broken down.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is what it is, man. I don't really have anything else for today. Do you?
No. Like I said, we're gonna save our Super Bowl talk for next time. So I don't even want to hint to what we're gonna talk about there. But there will be some breakdowns of
you know what? Sorry. We have time, and I do want to talk about this. I want to talk about this with both of you. Because there is still a job opening left in NFL. There's one, the Houston Texans, and the Houston Texans have asked for a I don't know if the second interview has happened yet, but they asked for a second interview with Eric Bieniemy and Leslie Frazier. These are two black coaches, both played this past weekend. Two black offensive coordinators. And so far, the Rooney Rule has proven to be a joke because out of the 7 head coaches openings from this year, 0 resulted in any black coaches hires, and I don't believe any of them actually had a realistic black coach interview.
Hey, Mark, are you sure? Because I thought there was a team that came out and said, we are desperately trying to hire a black coach. Who was that? Do you remember that team?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to look that up while you continue and finish there.
I mean, but, like, here's the thing. I don't want you to say that, like, oh, I'm desperately trying to hire a black coach. Like, no. Like, that shouldn't...
Falcons.
Huh?
Falcons. It was the Falcons.
Like, yeah. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear you're desperate to hire a black coach, like, because then it seems like you're trying to do me a fucking favor. Like, no. Hire me because I'm the best possible candidate out here, i.e. Eric Bieniemy, or you could say even Leslie Frazier, because the fact that Josh Allen is turned around from last year to this year speaks to the offensive coordinator. The offense rolling for the Bills the way that they are speaks to the offensive coordinator. Like, and Eric Bieniemy has only been the OC for the Chiefs every year that they've been rolling with Patrick Mahomes. So, and Patrick Mahomes he was an MVP. So, like, don't say it like, oh, you're doing me a favor. Like, no, I'm a better candidate than anyone that has been hired so
Just
far.
hire me, yo.
Yeah, like
like don't talk about like I'm desperate to hire a black coach. No, be desperate to hire the best coach, and they just so happen to be black, but yet both of them don't have a job. Now, my question here though is, and I'm going to preface it by laying my opinion bare, is this a is it good to want to be hired in this cycle by the Houston Texans? Because one thing we do know for sure is that being a coach of color, your leash is a lot shorter than anyone else's. If you do not get it right within the first 2 to 3 years, most of the time leaning towards the first 2 years, then you are out of there. And unlike the Adam Gases and the Matt Nagy's of the world, your first shot is going to be your last shot, more than likely. So, given how the Houston Texans are in a free fall, would you, as a black head coach, as a black coach wanting to be a head coach, would you take the job or would you just avoid this cycle?
You got to say no, man. And I have to jump out there and say that because the cycle continues as long as they keep taking those jobs. As long as they keep putting themselves in these shitty situations and taking these jobs, then they're going to continue to do this to you. They're going to continue to only offer you the crap jobs where they just need a placeholder coach to fill in a shitty situation until they get the guy that they want. This is what happens all the time. You know, it does happen to white coaches as well. It happens to black coaches more often. But I mean, honestly, I would have no desire for this position, pretty much knowing that I'm not the guy that they wanted. You know what I'm saying? And number two, knowing that it's such a volatile situation and a situation to where the ship is sinking that, yeah, Mark, you're gonna bring me on the boat to try to scoop out this water with a bucket. And it's already halfway down. Like, hell no, man. You could keep that. I just want coaches to not be so desperate for a head coaching job that they just take any head coaching job.
Now, yeah, I agree. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let you speak, Tyrone. Because here's the thing. Like, you can look at it even in basketball. Now, there are some other issues maybe that with this particular person or with this particular job. But Mark Jackson made the Warriors into a playoff team. Now, you could say Steve Kerr did stuff to put them over the hump, but it doesn't change the fact that Mark Jackson built this team to a playoff team who lost to a team that went to the finals and somehow has not found another head coaching job since being let go from the Warriors. And Todd Bowles turned around the Jets to where they were starting to trend in the right direction, and yet he hasn't gotten another head coaching job since. And you have what's his name from the Bears?
Lovie Smith.
Yes, Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith was a winning coach that they decided it was just time to move on, because they thought that maybe somebody else could get more out of Jay Cutler. Lo and behold, it was just Jay Cutler. He was trash. Now, but Lovie Smith, where the fuck is he? Like, and then you have Hugh Jackson. He was sent to Cleveland, and we know Cleveland was just a trash situation.
Yeah, dumpster fire situation at that time.
Yeah, and but he was scapegoated out of there. Like, so these are just examples of where the black coach is hired, and even even when he turns the ship around, or the Toronto Raptors, you know what I'm saying? Like he had them he had them, was that in the Eastern Conference Finals? Uh
Yeah,
yeah.
for
So he
Cleveland.
took them to the Eastern Conference Finals and was fired. Now, mind you, he did find another job, but but he was fired. Who's fired after taking a team to the Eastern Conference Finals? Like,
Yeah,
so
and that was Dwayne Casey.
yes, Dwayne Casey. I always mess his name up.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just yeah, it happens. It happens way too often. Tyrone, what you
Yeah.
got, man?
So the
What's your
question, my just to bring it back, my question was, would you take a head coaching job in this cycle, given the history and the treatment of black NFL coaches?
For me, if I needed a job, I probably would take it, despite the challenges that lie ahead. Do I agree with the way they do it? No. I don't think it's right, but then I also feel that, like, when are you going to ever get a chance to succeed if you don't take those chances? Because they don't afford us the same, you know, we don't start off at the same place on the track, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like in order to make a name for yourself, so let's say maybe you can go someplace you want to go, you got to start off in a bad position, I guess. Because if you don't take it, like, what are you gonna take? When are you gonna get it? You know.
yeah.
So I feel like you just got, they put your back against the wall, so you have no choice. You want to be a head coach? Well, this is all we got for you, so you can take it or leave it.
But
And then when you turn it down, then they can sit here and say, "Well, we tried. You just didn't want it."
right.
Yeah,
You know what
it's
I'm
a
saying?
catch-22. I'll say this, Tyrone. I was recently in a situation like that at work where it's like, hey, you know, hey, we got a position or a spot for you, a section for you to take a look at and be a part of. It's in shambles, but we're gonna, you know, we're kind of wanting you to go do that thing. And then the way
Mm-hmm.
of selling it is, hey, man, you know, you do this, you do that, you fix this thing up. That's something that you can put on your EPR. We all been there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It looks enticing sometimes to that person that's trying to make a name for themselves or trying to prove their worth to a bunch of people that don't see them. You're
Mm-hmm.
invisible to. So I can get why some people take that opportunity, but my problem is until they unite, until there's a united front to stop taking those jobs and for them to start letting other coaches get scapegoated, then the cycle's it's not gonna be broken. And Tyrone, to your point, you're talking about job opportunities. The one option that everybody forgets about is you can stay exactly where you're at and be an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator in a great position, because obviously if you're being courted, it's because you're doing good at that position, and then you can prove yourself even further from there and wait for another opportunity or wait for the right opportunity. So it's not like these people are just out here looking for a job, they're looking for
Right.
upward movement. But people need to remember there's always an option of sitting here and waiting, because sometimes, you know, when you jump on opportunities, sometimes you jump on the first thing that pops up and it's not the best opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
All money's not good money.
Thank you.
But at the same time, when you're offered the opportunity, particularly being a black head coach, I understand where you would feel as though, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this opportunity again, if you guys are ever going to look my way again.
Yep.
So,
So it can be enticing, I guess.
yeah. So, like, you're just damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I just wanted to bring that up. Particularly, I wanted to bring that up for Amadou, just so
because this has been something that has been sticking in his craw, and I just wanted to add that perspective so that he could, because maybe that's something that particularly Eric the Enemy is looking into, is just sitting where he's at, and maybe that's why he didn't quote unquote interview well with Atlanta, because he wanted some level of security, or he wanted things a particular way so that he could strive, and they weren't willing to do
Yeah.
it. And so he was like, well, that's cool, no thank you.
He
And
said, he said you're not gonna sit down at the table if you're gonna feed them scraps.
exactly. And maybe that's something that happened. That's why he didn't interview well. And like that's why and maybe those are reasons why he interviewed at all these places and hasn't received a job, is because he is looking for a level of security in the job that's usually not afforded to black coaches, and he is standing pat to that. And if that's the case, I commend him, because being the offensive coordinator of a multiple championship team is not a bad look, as long as you're not Josh McDaniels. So,
Okay. Two quick points before we finish, because I have to address the Atlanta Falcons situation of them saying that they're diligently looking for a black coach. The fact that you have to release that to the press lets me know that you're not actually looking for a black coach. The fact that you looked at Eric Bieniemy as one of those coaches, and then you quickly moved past him. Matter of fact, out of everybody that has spoken up, you spoke the loudest about him not interviewing well. So obviously, if Eric Bieniemy is not good enough for you, then none of these other black coaches are going to be good enough. And you went with your decision from there. Also, I want to talk about the Texans, because rumor has it that they were, before Watson pressed them and basically applied pressure on them to go after Bieniemy again, they were considering hiring Josh McCown as the head coach. And he is currently, this year, he was currently on the roster as a backup QB. And he's a veteran guy, maybe like 36, 37 years old, however old he is. But yeah, they were looking at him to be jumping straight from QB to head coach, not even going through the ranks of being a coordinator or position coach. So it just seems to be a slap in the face to somebody like Eric Bieniemy, who has put in the time and the work and all that stuff. Not just the Eric Bieniemy, all the other black coaches that are coordinators that are out there trying to get this job. It just seems like a slap in the face when they're saying the only guy that they've come out and said that they liked was Josh McCown, and they're trying to jump a guy straight from quarterback to head coach. So that is also why that would be the biggest deciding factor for me. Even if I thought I might take this one opportunity, that would be enough of a slap in the face for me to say, F that job.
all right. So, yeah, man, that's the end of this episode, guys. That's all we got for you guys. Hate to end it on somewhat of a down note, but it is what it is. That's just the state of things. But all in all, this episode was really good. I feel as though we had got a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? Condolences to your team, Shawn. I apologize. So
What do you mean? Like, my team's still alive. They didn't die or anything. What was this? You know what?
I'm
Whatever.
confused. So
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, as always, small world artistry, as you can see. Tyrone is sporting a small world artistry hoodie, the $100 bill, Michael Myers drawn. I'm sporting the eye test hoodie. I know a few of y'all out there wanted the eye test hoodie. We could get those out to y'all. Eye test t-shirts as well, because we are heading into spring. So you know what I'm saying? Like, holla at us. We can make these things happen. Just hit us up at the eye test network at gmail.com. That's the eye test network at gmail.com. And or hit us up on our Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. all of it's the same. The eye test network was very easy. You'll find us very quickly. So with that being said, man, if you're new and you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your auntie, your cousin, your uncle. I don't care. Just share this shit. Anyway, and with that being said, signing off. If you cool with us, we cool with y'all. Peace.
Yeah.